1. The Digging Adventure. Jason Patrick. 1. The Digging Adventure. Humid heat and mosquitoes were all over Connor's backyard. It's where the four friends often gathered, the loud pre-teenage chatter echoing through the rural neighborhood. Connor, Clark, Caleb, and Cheyenne had a tradition of spending their weekends together, exploring the depths of their imagination and the wonders of their neighborhood. They have shared many memorable adventures. Connor, the oldest of the group at 12 years old, stood in his backyard, surveying the bored group. With an energetic voice, he suggested a daring challenge for their next adventure. "Hey guys, what if we dig a hole in my backyard and see how deep we can go?" The idea piqued their curiosity, and the group nodded in agreement. Over the years, they had swum in local lakes, embarked on campouts in each other's backyards, and explored the woods surrounding their neighborhood. This new endeavor promised to be just as thrilling. Connor has wild brown hair and always had a mischievous look on his face. He had no mother, and his dad let him do what he wanted. He glanced at his best friend, Clark, who lived right next door. Clark was a slightly shorter but stocky boy with messy blonde hair that always seemed to defy gravity. They had shared time together since they were old enough to walk, their friendship forged strong. Connor says, "Hey Clark, you and Cheyenne go to your house next door and get your shovels." Cheyenne, Clark's twin sister, was leaning against the old wooden fence, her bright blonde hair flowing down past her shoulders. At 11 years old, she possessed a natural curiosity and fearlessness that matched the boys. Though they were twins, their personalities couldn't be more different, but their bond was unbreakable. She heard Connor and yelled, "Let's go get those shovels, Clark." Caleb was twirling his archery bow around his finger. His enthusiasm about digging the hole was obvious because he put his bow down and started looking for a spot to dig with Connor. Caleb was an avid archer, always talking about his latest gear and techniques. His long hair was tied back in a ponytail, and his eyes darted with excitement. He was an indispensable part of their tight-knit crew. Together, they gathered shovels and began to dig with fervor. Clark laughs, "Hey, Connor, what the heck are you doing with all that dirt on your face?" Connor excitedly says, "I'm channeling my inner Arnold Schwarzenegger, my friend. I'm going to use my epic commando skills." Connor and Clark grew up watching Connor's dad's 90s action movies. Terminator 2 was their favorite. Cheyenne, with her pretty blue eyes, smirks. "Oh boy, here we go. You are not normal. I should have known better." Striking a leader's pose, Connor says, "Normal is overrated. We need some action in our lives, my friends. This hole won't dig itself, but with my Schwarzenegger spirit, we'll conquer it." Get down, as he starts running around, pretending to dodge imaginary enemy fire. He approaches the group. "I'll be back," with a shovel. "Hasta la vista, dirt." While he's digging, he says, "Consider this hole terminated." In an Arnold-like voice, "Dig if you want to live." "Connor, you're turning into a real digging action hero. We might have to cast you in the next blockbuster," Cheyenne says. Connor smiling, "I'll dig my way to stardom, my friends. But for now, let's finish this mission and conquer this hole." Their laughter blending with the rhythmic sound of dirt being displaced. They took turns, sharing gloves to protect their hands from the unforgiving earth, quickly discovering that digging was no easy task. With blisters on their hands and dirt under their fingernails, they had worked tirelessly. The blister on Connor's hand, however, had turned into a gross, tiny water balloon. It pulsated with each beat of his heart, threatening to burst at any moment. Today, They had embarked on a new endeavor, a quest to dig a hole so deep it would lead them to the other side of the world, or so they imagined. What had started as a simple dare had turned into a test of endurance, determination, and friendship. Monday morning arrived, and Connor couldn't resist showing off his blistered battle wound to friends at school. With a mixture of pride and mischief, he prodded the blister, causing a teeny-tiny hole to form. Clear pus squirted out when he squeezed it. It was like a little water gun. He squirted the back of a fellow student's head. The sight was nothing short of revolting, yet Clark and Connor couldn't control their hushed laughter. The afflicted student turned around, rubbing the ooze off the back of his neck and head, his eyes narrowing as he met their gaze. He shot them a serious glare before nonchalantly turning back to the cafeteria line, where he patiently waited for his mediocre school lunch. Clark and Connor's amusement escalated into uncontrollable fits of laughter, their shared hilarity cementing their bond even further. 2. The reality. The sun beat down mercilessly as the four kids stood around the giant hole. They had spent the past 3 weekends digging. Sweat trickled down their shirts, and their weary eyes reflected both fatigue and boredom. 50 feet deep, the hole was an impressive testament to their determination and youthful energy. But now, the thrill had faded, replaced by a sense of monotony. Connor wiped his forehead with a dirty hand, leaving a smear of dirt across it. He let out a long sigh. "Guys, I think we're done," he said, his voice tinged with resignation. "I mean, what's the point of digging deeper? It's not fun anymore." His friends all agreed, their expressions mirroring Connor's disappointment. The hole had become their obsession, a secret endeavor that had brought them closer together. But now, the thrill had evaporated, and their enthusiasm had waned. Just as they were about to abandon their ambitious project, Connor's father, Mr. Richards, appeared at the edge of the hole. He peered down at the depths they had reached and grinned proudly. "You kids have done something remarkable," Mr. Richards said, his voice laced with admiration. 50 feet in 3 weeks, that's no small feat." Despite their exhaustion, the words of praise ignited a spark of pride within the kids. They straightened their backs and exchanged glances. "But," Mr. Richards continued, his tone taking on a more serious note, "there's something important I need you all to understand. You've dug this hole, and it's time to take responsibility for it. I don't want you to leave this hole unfilled," he explained. "It's a safety hazard, and someone could get seriously hurt if they stumble upon it. We need to make sure it's filled back in." Cheyenne wrinkled her face. "But that means we have to fill it all back in. It'll take forever." Mr. Richards nodded. "Yes, it will take time and effort, just like digging it did, but we'll all work together. I'll help you. We'll make it fun." Reluctantly, the four kids nodded in agreement. It was a bitter pill to swallow, but they understood the importance of ensuring the safety of others. Over the next few days, the group transitioned from diggers to fillers. They took turns. It was hard work. Mr. Richards was tired too. With a raspy voice, he said, "Kids, my throat hurts from the dust I have to go in." Mr. Richards went into the house and drank some water through his new achy, sore throat. All he wanted to do was sleep. Meanwhile, the kids' shared work brought them closer. They chatted and laughed, making the task more bearable. As the hole slowly disappeared under the layers of earth, the kids couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. Unbeknownst to them, their carefree days in Rochester, Michigan, were about to take an unexpected turn. The digging expedition had unwittingly opened a gateway to a dangerous discovery, one that would push them to their limits and reveal secrets hidden beneath the surface of their idyllic suburban town. 2. The transformation. As Connor entered the front door of his house, he immediately sensed something was off. There was the familiar scent of his father's aftershave, but it was mingling with a faint, pet store odor. He dropped his backpack on the floor and called out, "Dad, I'm home." He glanced around, his gaze fixating on his father. Jason Richards stood by the kitchen counter, his hands fidgeting nervously. Connor got nervous when he took in the sight of his uneasy dad before him. "Dad, what's going on?" Connor asked, his voice laced with concern. He noticed his father's shoes, discarded by the doorway, revealing feet that were no longer the same. His father's once normal-looking feet now appeared grotesque and otherworldly, their texture resembling the scales of a reptile. They had taken on a sickening brownish-green hue, alien to anything Connor had ever seen. Jason avoided his son's gaze, his voice trembling, as he replied, I don't know, Connor. Something's wrong with me. I woke up this morning, and my feet, they were like this." Connor's heart raced with fear and confusion. This was a whole new level of weirdness. His mind raced, desperately trying to find an explanation for his father's sudden transformation. Could it be some sort of infection? Or perhaps an allergic reaction? As Connor moved closer to his father, he noticed another unsettling change. His father's toenails, once neat and trimmed, had grown thicker and sharper, tapering to a point reminiscent of claws. The sight made his whole body shudder, and a knot formed in his stomach. This wasn't something that could be easily explained away. "Dad, we need to go to the hospital," Connor urged, his voice tinged with urgency. "We have to figure out what's happening to you." Connor's heart raced as he watched his father's condition deteriorate before his eyes. Jason had always been a strong and stubborn man, but now his once robust frame seemed frail and feeble. The signs were undeniable. "Dad, please," Connor pleaded, his voice filled with desperation. "You need medical help. We can't just sit here and hope things get better on their own." His face contorted in pain, shook his head weakly. "I ain't going to no damn hospital, boy. I've seen enough of those places. They won't do me any good." Connor's frustration mingled with his worry. He understood his father's aversion to hospitals, memories of lost loved ones. But this was different. Jason needed to be seen. Taking a deep breath, Connor made a difficult decision. He pulled out his cell phone and dialed the emergency number. Within minutes, the wailing sirens echoed through the neighborhood, piercing the afternoon. The ambulance screeched to a halt, and two EMTs, clad in crisp blue uniforms, burst through the front door. Their eyes widened in shock as they caught sight of Jason's feet. They froze in their tracks, their faces a mix of astonishment and horror. "What the hell?" one of the EMTs muttered, his voice trembling. Connor's heart sank as he looked down at his father's feet. They were unlike anything he had ever seen before. The skin was cracked and scaled, resembling the rough texture of ancient dinosaur fossils. The toes were elongated and claw-like, jutting out at odd angles. Jason's legs, once muscular and weathered, now exhibited a sickly transformation. The brownish-green hue crept up his calves, bringing with it an otherworldly look. The EMTs exchanged nervous glances, their confidence faltering. They were trained to handle emergencies, but this was something else entirely. They had never encountered such a peculiar sight, and the fear in their eyes was noticeable. "Sir, what happened to your feet?" One of the EMTs managed to stutter, his voice betraying his unease. "I don't know," Jason grumbled through gritted teeth, his pain evident. "Okay, sir, we're here to help." The EMTs snapped out of their stunned state, professionalism kicking in. They swiftly wheeled in a gurney, their gloved hands carefully maneuvering Jason onto it. As they pushed him towards the ambulance, Connor's heart swelled with trepidation. 3. The hospital. The ambulance screeched to a halt in front of Troy Beaumont Hospital, its sirens wailing and lights flashing. The EMT guys, their faces horrified, swiftly unloaded Connor's father from the vehicle and rushed him through the emergency doors, the situation clearly rattling them to the core. Once inside, they navigated through the bustling hospital corridors, finally reaching a small room designated for immediate medical attention. They gently laid Connor's father on the bed, and within seconds, a team of doctors and nurses surrounded him, their hands moving with precision and speed. Dr. Miller, an experienced physician, approached the bed and glanced at Connor's father's feet and legs. His eyes widened, and for a moment he froze, unable to comprehend what he was seeing. Something out of a sci-fi movie. Slowly regaining his composure, he called for the necessary tests to be conducted, his voice filled with a mix of shock and curiosity. As the medical professionals worked diligently, their attention turned to Jason's temperature. Dr. Miller glanced at the thermometer, and his breath caught in his throat. The digital display read a dangerously low 78 degrees Fahrenheit. He couldn't believe his eyes. The man lying before him should be unconscious or worse, yet he remained conscious, defying the laws of physiology. Jason clutched his hands in agony. Something was happening to him, something inexplicable and terrifying. His fingers elongated, morphing into sharp, dinosaur-like claws with a strange tan-green hue, reminiscent of a lizard. The pain radiated through his body, causing him to cry out in distress. The doctor's eyes widened in disbelief as they witnessed the transformation unfolding before them. It was an unthinkable sight, defying all logic and medical understanding. Connor watched helplessly as his father writhed in agony, his body contorting and convulsing in ways that defied logic. The pain in his face was unbearable to witness. The transformation took place for 2 straight days. Connor's father's skin started to change, taking on a sickly greenish hue. His limbs elongated and twisted, while scales began to emerge from beneath his now stretched and deformed flesh. The room filled with an acrid smell, a mixture of chemicals and something otherworldly. By the end of the second day, Connor could hardly recognize the man lying before him. His father's eyes, once filled with warmth and kindness, now glowed with an alien intensity. The transformation was complete, but what emerged was beyond anything Connor could have ever imagined. Laying in the bed before him was a creature that defied categorization. His father's body appeared to be a strange mix of human, dinosaur, and something entirely foreign. The scales that covered his skin were iridescent, reflecting an otherworldly light. It was a freaky sight. Connor's heart sank as he beheld this creature, this monstrous being that was once his father. He couldn't bear to look at the hideousness that had taken over the man he once knew. When the creature woke up, his reptilian eyes met Connor's, and Connor saw a glimmer of recognition, a flicker of love still in his eyes. With a sudden surge of strength, the reptile-like figure leaped from the hospital bed, crashing through the glass window. Glass shards rained down as Connor rushed to the window, desperate to catch a glimpse of his father. But his father was gone, vanished into the night, leaving behind only a broken window and a scared son. 4. Vanished hybrid. Connor was home alone now. He felt thankful he had his lifelong friends, Clark and Cheyenne's family next door. His friends were now at his house, very curious to why Connor hasn't been at school. Connor took a deep breath as he recounted the terrifying events that had unfolded at the hospital. Clark, Cheyenne, and Caleb listened intently, their eyes widening with every word. The atmosphere in the room grew tense, the weight of their fear pressing down on them. "Man, that's some messed up stuff," Clark said, his voice laced with disbelief. "Are you doing okay?" Connor nodded, his hands trembling slightly. "I guess so. I know it sounds insane, but I saw it with my own eyes. It was like something out of a nightmare. He transformed into this lizard creature." Cheyenne shivered, wrapping her arms around herself for comfort. "This is beyond anything I could have imagined." Caleb, always the pragmatic one, rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "We need to figure out what's going on. There must be some kind of explanation for all this. We need to find your father." Mr. Jason Richards now, the creature, crouched low in the shadows, his reptilian eyes scanning the city streets. His scaly skin glimmered in the moonlight. Total fear and confusion coursed through him as he tried to make sense of his new existence. He had no recollection of how he had come to be in this state, only vague memories lingering at the edges of his consciousness. Flashes of a normal life, a loving son, and a career that had now become a distant dream. But they were just fragments, disconnected and fleeting. His instincts urged him to stay hidden, to avoid every human of the world. They would surely reject and fear him. As he moved through the city, he sought out the darkest corners, the narrowest alleys, and the forgotten recesses of the urban landscape. He clung to the shadows like a creature born of them, his heart pounding with each cautious step. Every sound, every movement set his scales on edge, making him shiver. He had become a stranger to his own body, a mere passenger in a form that felt alien and unnatural. The city, once familiar, now seemed like a labyrinth of danger and uncertainty. He paused for a moment, his glowing eyes narrowing as he caught a glimpse of his distorted reflection in a broken storefront window. The sight sent a wave of terror crashing over him as he grappled with his monstrous appearance. Who was he now? What had become of the man he once was? Jason clutched his reptilian head, the weight of his emotions threatening to consume him. Fear, anger, and a profound sadness intertwined within his very being. The remnants of his humanity struggled to find sense and logic amidst the chaos of his existence. Lost in the depths of his thoughts, he failed to notice the approaching car echoing through the desolate alley. His heart leaped in his chest as a beam of light pierced through the darkness, illuminating the scaly contours of his body. Panic surged through him as he sought refuge, his instincts urging him to flee. With a powerful animal like sprint, Jason propelled himself away down the street, his powerful limbs propelling him into darkness. Running for miles and miles, he finds solace in the confines of an old barn, nestled on a retired dairy farm on the outskirts of North Rochester. It was a place where the children used to gather last summer. They would hang out there for hours, their laughter and play still echoing faintly in the abandoned structure. As Jason's insatiable hunger grew, he instinctively hunted the insects that scurried across the barn's floor. Chasing after them, his reptilian senses took over, momentarily overpowering the fragments of his human memories that lingered deep within his mind. He knew he had been someone else just days ago, a man named Jason, but the recollection was like a distant whisper. Amid the chaos of his inner struggle, Jason's consciousness flickered with visions, fleeting glimpses of a young boy. There was an inexplicable familiarity in the child's features, a connection that tugged at Jason's fragmented memories. With no one else around and all alone, Jason felt a profound sense of isolation and loneliness. He yearned for connection, for someone who might understand or aid him in this bewildering transformation. Driven by an impulse that seemed to emanate from his very core, Jason focused his energy on the thought of that boy, hoping to forge a telepathic link between their minds. In the recesses of his reptilian brain, Jason concentrated, willing signals from the deep center of his mind to reach out and touch Connor's mind. His scaly forehead furrowed as he strained, grappling with this newfound ability. It was as if he were extending an invisible hand, reaching across the vast expanse that separated them. Connor, miles away and oblivious to his father's whereabouts or condition, found himself lost in his own thoughts. The weight of his father's disappearance burdened his young heart. Little did he know that in that very moment, his father, now an alien creature, was attempting to bridge the gap between them through the ethereal realm of thought. 5. The penetrating thoughts. Connor was back at school. He sat at his desk in the classroom, his mind drifting away from the assignments laid out before him. The words on the pages blurred together. He couldn't focus, couldn't shake off the strange thoughts that plagued his mind. It felt as though something was forcibly implanting visions of a barn into his brain, like a relentless assault on his consciousness. Throughout the day, Connor couldn't escape the strange thoughts that plagued his mind. They felt invasive, as if someone was manipulating his very thoughts, and there was something familiar about them, a haunting familiarity that made him shiver in fear. It was as if he was hearing his father's voice, somewhere else, but somehow present within his own consciousness. His friends, who sat nearby, noticed his distant demeanor. They exchanged worried glances. They knew Connor had been through some dramatic events lately, and they attributed his behavior to the aftermath of those experiences. But they couldn't help but wonder if something more sinister was at play. "Hey, Connor, you okay?" Caleb leaned closer, his voice laced with genuine worry. Connor snapped out of his daze, his eyes meeting Caleb's concerned gaze. "Yeah, I'm fine," he replied, his voice lacking conviction. Cheyenne chimed in, her concern evident in her tone. "You've been acting strange all day. Are you sure everything's all right?" Connor forced a smile, attempting to brush off their concerns. "It's just everything that happened recently, you know. It's been weighing on me." His friends nodded understandingly, their worry easing slightly. It was natural for him to be affected, yet deep down, they sensed there was more to his distress. As the final bell rang, signaling the end of the school day, Connor's mind raced with a decision. He's going to the barn. The image of the old, run-down structure flashed vividly in his mind, as though it held the key to unraveling the mystery surrounding his intrusive thoughts. On the bus ride home, Connor turned to his friends, his voice filled with determination. "Hey guys, I've got an idea. Remember that barn we used to hang out at last summer? What if we went there today?" Cheyenne spoke up first, her voice gentle. "All right, Connor. If you want, we're with you. Let's check out the barn." As Connor and his friends stepped off the school bus, their footsteps made their way towards the old, weathered barn at the edge of town. Connor's mind was ablaze with a mixture of confusion. Images and sensations flooded his consciousness, seemingly pushed into his head from thin air. It was as if someone or something was desperately trying to communicate with him, using his own mind as a conduit. As they approached the barn, Connor couldn't help but wonder if his transformed father was waiting for him inside. Ever since that night, when his father disappeared as a creature of immense power, Connor had been grappling with unanswered questions. The visions that assailed him now felt different, more urgent. They were vivid and potent, pulsating with an otherworldly energy that freaked him out. Connor couldn't shake the feeling that his father was somehow responsible for these visions, drawing him to this mysterious barn. 6. The meeting. His friends, unaware of the turmoil inside Connor's mind, followed him eagerly. They trusted him, even if they didn't fully understand why he was so determined to bring them here. As they entered the barn, the air grew thick with an otherworldly energy and smell, causing the hairs on the back of Connor's neck to stand on end. Connor's heart raced as he moved deeper into the barn, the visions intensifying with each step. He locked eyes with the creature lurking in the rafters of the old barn, its features monstrous, unrecognizable as the face of his once beloved father. Yet, amidst the fear, Connor felt a strange reassurance emanating from the creature's mind. As if on cue, the other children saw the thing. Cheyenne screamed. Her face pale and eyes wide with terror, she clutched her brother Clark's hand tightly and ran out. Caleb, usually the boldest of the group, stood frozen, his expression a mixture of shock and disbelief. "It's okay," Connor's voice rang out. "It's all right, guys. Don't be afraid. The creature is communicating with me telepathically. It's my father. It remembers." His words hung in the air, and the children looked at Connor, their eyes filled with confusion and doubt. Connor could sense their skepticism, but knew deep down that he couldn't abandon the creature, regardless of how scary and unfamiliar it appeared. Stepping forward, Connor locked eyes with each of his friends, desperately trying to convey the truth. "I know it's hard to believe, but I can hear its thoughts. He's frightened and desperate. We have to help." Slowly, the others began to realize the sincerity in Connor's voice. Cheyenne, trembling but resolute, released her grip on Clark's hand. "If you trusted Connor, then we trust you." Caleb, snapping out of his shock, nodded in agreement. "If there's a chance to save your father, Connor, we'll stand by your side." "I won't leave you behind, Dad." Connor projected his thoughts to the creature, praying that his words reached its tormented soul. "We'll find a way to help you. We're here for you." The creature's eyes, with remnants of recognition, flickered with a glimmer of hope. The creature and the kids waited in the barn till dark. Their next move had to be careful. As the darkness deepened, the time to leave seemed right. Connor motioned for the kids and his father to follow. The creature's glowing eyes scanned the surroundings, ensuring they were alone. A mysterious being, with powers beyond their understanding. They made their way across the moonlit city, hiding in the shadows as they cautiously walked. Fear fueled them forward to find safety back in Connor's house, a place where they could lay low and devise a plan to hide Connor's reptile dad. Inside the house, they closed the curtains and dimmed the lights. The kids sank onto the couch, their weary bodies finding a momentary rest. The creature prowled the house, surveying the surroundings. Caleb spoke. "We need to keep Connor's dad hidden until we figure out what happened." The kids nodded. They would protect Connor's dad together. 7. Talk and mental talk. Word of the strange incident at Troy Beaumont Hospital spread through the community. The doctors and hospital staff, who had been first-hand witnesses to the horrifying event, could not help but talk. Dr. Lisa Vasquez, a seasoned physician at Troy Hospital, stood among her colleagues in the hospital's break room. She gripped her coffee cup tightly, her knuckles turning white. "Did you hear what happened?" she asked Dr. Miller. He nodded. "I was there when it happened," he replied. "It was like something out of a movie. One moment, he was an ordinary man, and the next—" He trailed off, unable to find the words to articulate the sheer horror of what he had witnessed. "What happened to him?" Dr. Vasquez asked, her voice curious. "Is it some kind of new virus, or—" Dr. Miller shook his head, his eyes wide with uncertainty. "I don't know, Lisa. It defies all logic and medical understanding. He morphed into some sort of lizard-looking thing right in front of us. And then, without warning, he leapt out of the hospital window, crashing through the glass as if it were nothing." "What are we going to do?" Dr. Vasquez's voice trembled with fear. "We have to warn the proper authorities." Dr. Miller, with sarcasm, says, "Who do we call? The Ghostbusters, the X-Files, the Pentagon, or the Secret Service?" Being more serious, he says, "I suppose we could notify the local police to keep a lookout." Back at Connor's house, the kids gathered around the reptile thing, still in awe of its presence, its reptilian eyes watching them with intensity. It could understand all their normal speech, but due to its monstrous dinosaur mouth, it could not communicate with a voice or words. As they spent more time together, the kids grew more comfortable with Mr. Richards the reptile thing. They began experimenting, trying to find ways to communicate beyond spoken words. Surprisingly, they discovered that they could speak to the creature with their minds. It was as if a telepathic link had formed between them, allowing thoughts and emotions to flow freely. Jason Richards, through these mental exchanges, conveyed to them that it remembers it had once been human and Connor's father. However, his memories were fragmented and foggy. There was a sense of familiarity in its eyes, a glimmer of recognition. As time passed, the creature had visions began to surface, bringing forth images from ancient times. It saw dinosaurs, majestic and fearsome, just like the ones they had seen in museums. These visions painted a vivid picture of a time long past, a world ruled by prehistoric beasts. The reptile thing relived these moments through flashes in its mind, the sights, the sounds, the smells. But something more perplexing troubled the creature. Alongside these ancient memories, new sensations started to creep into its consciousness. It felt a connection, a telepathic tug from possible distant beings in another place or dimension. The reptile thing could not comprehend the purpose or origin of these psychic signals, but the presence was undeniable. Within its mind, the reptile thing received glimpses of otherworldly landscapes, alien civilizations, and untold wonders. It sensed the probing thoughts of these enigmatic beings, as if they were trying to establish a connection with him. The children, and their minds intertwined with the reptile thing. They could sense its confusion and curiosity. They shared its growing unease and wondered about the implications of these telepathic transmissions. What did they mean? Who were these beings reaching out to him? 8. Practice. Jason possessed an extraordinary ability to communicate telepathically, a skill they were gradually learning to harness themselves. Sitting in Connor's living room, the kids gathered around Jason. They prepared to practice their telepathic communication. Connor closed his eyes and focused his mind on his father. He envisioned a mental connection, a bridge between their consciousness. Slowly, images and emotions began to flow between them. Connor could sense Jason's presence, his confusion, and his humble fears. Caleb watched his friend, awestruck by the intensity of their connection. He had always been fascinated by the mysteries of the universe, and the ability to communicate with Jason was like unlocking a door to a realm of infinite possibilities. He too closed his eyes and concentrated, attempting to mimic Connor's technique. Cheyenne had always been perceptive and intuitive. She could feel the energy pulsating in the room, intertwining with her own energy. As she connected with Jason, she could sense his curiosity and confusion, as well as a profound sense of protectiveness towards them. She smiled and opened her mind wider, allowing their connection to deepen. Clark had initially struggled with the concept of telepathy. His mind was filled with doubts and distractions, making it difficult to focus. But as he practiced with his friends, he became determined to master this skill. He took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and concentrated with all his might. Inside Clark's mind, there was a flicker of connection. It was faint, but it was there. Images began to form in his thoughts, fragments of Jason's presence. The connection grew stronger. For hours, they practiced and refined their telepathic communication with Jason, honing their abilities with every session. The bond between the children and Jason grew deeper. A dormant part of their humanity came alive and resonated every time they spoke mentally with Jason. 9. Here comes Jacob. The kids were at school, so Jason Richards stayed at the house. With his scaly skin, he was sitting alone on the couch. He was feeling very confused. Ever since his transformation into this monstrous alien reptile, he had been dominated by vivid and unsettling visions. Lately, the telepathic visions were stronger than ever, flooding his mind with glimpses of a distant past. Images of earthly ancient times flickered through his consciousness like fragmented memories. He saw strange beings, humanoid in appearance, but unmistakably alien. They wore sleek, metallic suits that glimmered under the sun as they moved through a landscape teeming with towering dinosaurs. Jason watched, horrified, as the alien beings conducted experiments on the prehistoric creatures. It was as if they sought to alter the very fabric of existence, attempting to fuse their extraterrestrial DNA with that of the dinosaurs, creating an unimaginable hybrid that could survive our earthly conditions and atmosphere. The ancient aliens were driven by a desire to adapt and survive on Earth. As each vision unfolded, Jason's reptilian heart pounded in his chest. The enormity of what he was witnessing threatened to consume him. Who were these aliens? What were their intentions? And why was he, a transformed outcast, linked to these ancient experiments? All of a sudden, Jason's heart raced as his special senses surged to life. His special senses, once foggy and disorienting, were now becoming familiar, second nature. They tingled, and he knew danger was near. Closing his eyes, Jason let his mind drift, allowing his new mental power to guide him. In an instant, he was thrust into a vision, his surroundings fading away. The scene unfolded before him, revealing a man driving a car, his presence radiating danger and seriousness. His intent was to arrive at Connor and Jason's address. Whoever it was, they knew about him. Powerful people knew about him. They were seeking him out, and their determination was palpable even in the blurred vision. He realized the gravity of the situation. He had enemies, people who wanted to exploit his unique abilities, or worse, destroy him. His reptilian instincts kicked in, urging him to retreat to safety, somewhere secret. Jacob Davids sat in his unmarked white Chevy Tahoe. The SUV was devoid of any personal effects, reflecting the secret nature of his occupation. He was a man of few words, an agent whose existence was shrouded in secrecy. He was employed by an unnamed government agency. He was one of the few individuals entrusted with overseeing the most covert, hush-hush, inexplicable issues the world had ever known. Jacob had seen things that most people would dismiss as the stuff of science fiction. He had encountered creatures beyond human comprehension, witnessed events that defied the laws of nature. And today, he knew was no exception as he reviewed the latest intelligence report. The report detailed a horrifying incident that had occurred in a hospital in Troy, Michigan. According to witnesses, a man had transformed into reptilian creature while at the hospital, then jumped out a glass window and disappeared. It was an eerie reminder of a similar case he had encountered just 4 months ago in Zambia, where a woman had transformed into a nightmarish lizard-like alien. The catalyst for the change had been an excavation site for a new dam. While digging the deep hole for the dam, it unearthed an ancient genetic code hidden beneath the Earth's surface for countless millennia. Jacob's thoughts were interrupted by a call on his vehicle's Bluetooth. He swiftly activated it, and a voice crackled through the speaker, laden with urgency. "Jacob, we have a Code Crimson situation in Troy, Michigan. You're needed on the ground immediately. This reptilian creature poses a severe threat, and we must neutralize it before it causes further chaos." Jacob's heart raced as he acknowledged the mission. The Code Crimson designation was reserved for cases of extreme paranormal nature. It was his expertise, his burden, and his duty to confront these otherworldly anomalies head-on. As the vehicle sped on, its tinted windows hiding Jacob's presence from prying eyes, he couldn't help but wonder about the ancient genome lurking beneath the Earth's surface. What secrets did it hold? What dark forces were awakened with each dig into the depths of the unknown? 10. Can't stay home anymore. Soon, Jacob arrived in Troy, Michigan, where chaos had already taken place at the hospital. He spoke to some witnesses, got some info, and scoped out the scene. Now he headed to the next town, over Rochester, where he found out the reptile monster and his son Connor lived. Connor and his friends trudged up the steps to Connor's house, their backpacks weighing heavily on their shoulders. It had been a long day at school. The friends stepped inside. "Something doesn't feel right," Connor said. Clark glanced at him. "You're right. It's awfully quiet. And where's Jason? Your dad is never gone when we come home." "Dad, are you here?" Connor yelled. Silence greeted his calls. Just as they were about to embark on a search throughout the house, a loud, commanding knock reverberated through the hallway, startling them all. Connor exchanged a bewildered look with his friends, unsure of who could be at the door. They cautiously made their way to answer it. As Connor pulled the door open, a man stood before them, exuding authority. He wore a sharp black suit, his bald head impeccably shaved, and his eyes held an intensity that seemed to pierce through the soul. The man's presence demanded respect and attention. "Hi, I'm Secret Agent Jacob Davids," he announced, his voice carrying a gravitas that instantly commanded attention. Connor's eyes widened, his mind racing to process the situation. A secret agent. Agent Jacob Davids stepped through the front door of Connor's house, his eyes scanning the surroundings with a trained precision. As he crossed the threshold, a familiar smell assaulted his senses, causing his mind to go back in time for a second. It was the same putrid odor that had permeated the air during his harrowing case in Zambia. The memory of that mission was etched deep into his mind, and the smell triggered a surge of adrenaline. "So, Connor, you live here alone now?" Jacob asked. He observed the young boy standing before him, noting the shadows in his eyes and the weight on his shoulders. Connor nodded, his gaze shifting nervously. "Yes, but next door live the Patricks. They're like my family. They've been looking out for me. Clark and Cheyenne Patrick, my friends here with me now. We've known each other since diapers." "Has your father come back in his new lizard form? Has he tried to reach you at all?" Jacob inquired, his voice low but filled with urgency. He knew there was something more to this situation, something the kids were keeping from him. His instincts as a seasoned agent were rarely wrong. Connor hesitated. He said, "No, I haven't seen him since the hospital." Jacob then said, "I'm only trying to protect you, kids. Here's my card. If you see or hear anything, let me know." Jacob then turned and began to make his way toward the exit. As he moved away from the children, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were hiding something. The scent and the silence from the children fueled his resolve. Connor's heart raced as Agent Davids stepped out of his house and drove off. He told his friends, "I have to find my dad." Connor closed his eyes and opened his mind, focusing his thoughts on Jason. Because Connor and his father had been practicing the skill of telepathy, it didn't take long for the familiar presence of his father to fill his consciousness. He sensed Jason's energy strong and knew that he was nearby. The image of a dilapidated barn flashed in Connor's mind, and he realized that his father was there. Unbeknownst to Jason, someone had caught a glimpse of his unusual dinosaur figure darting towards the barn. A witness, bird-watching in the brush, had seen him and knew that something was amiss. They called the authorities. 11. House on the river. Jason hid in the loft. As he stayed hidden, he became calmer. He could finally relax and focus on his heightened senses. His reptilian instincts alerted him to the impending danger, warning him that someone was closing in on their location. However, he could also sense Connor and his friends were on their way too. He sensed Connor would arrive there first, and when he did, they had to leave right away, because danger was also on the way to the barn, shortly behind them. As the kids approached the doors of the barn, Connor could sense his father's presence inside. Once reunited, Jason quickly alerted them to the impending danger, warning them that someone was closing in on their location. There was no time to waste, so they all ran together down a shallow hill to the Clinton River. The group continued their trek along the side of the Clinton River, their senses on high alert with every step. The smell of the river was musty as they cautiously made their way. They were desperate for a safe haven, a place to catch their breath and regroup. And then, as if the universe had granted them a momentary reprieve, they stumbled upon a rowboat nestled against the riverbank. It was a small vessel, its wooden frame worn and aged by time, but it was in decent condition. The group exchanged glances, an unspoken agreement passing between them. This was their ticket to an easier getaway. They clambered into the rowboat, the creaking of the wood echoing. As they pushed off from the shore, the river's current gently carried them downstream. The cool water lapped against the sides of the boat. As they floated downstream, the landscape transformed. The river widened, the dense woods giving way to open plains. The sun began its descent on the horizon. The once vibrant hues of the sky were now painted with the dusky shades of twilight. It was a beautiful yet ominous sight, because they didn't even know where they were going. Just as their hope began to flicker, in the distance, a house emerged from the gloom. its wooden facade weathered and worn. It appeared abandoned, a silent sentinel in the encroaching night. A spark of hope ignited within the group as they steered the rowboat towards the dilapidated structure. 12. Alarming visions. As they approached the house, they disembarked cautiously, their feet crunching on the gravel pathway. Clark kicked in the door, revealing a long-forgotten interior. Cobwebs adorned the corners, and dust danced in the dim light that filtered through the cracked windows. Though far from ideal, the house would suffice as a temporary sanctuary. The group moved through the rooms, securing the doors and windows as best they could. Weariness weighed heavy upon them, but they knew they could not let their guard down entirely. In the dark old house, the moonlight cast dark shadows on the peeling wallpaper, giving the place a scary feel. As the five of them huddled together and settled onto the floor, Jason started talking to them through their minds. Jason's snake-like, glowing eyes darting from one face to another, sent silent words and images to them. Sometimes he closed his eyes momentarily, focusing his thoughts, and then more thoughts and images would enter their minds with urgency. These visions Jason sent to them depicted ancient beings experimenting with prehistoric animals, merging their DNA. It is as if they were attempting to create something entirely new beings beyond our comprehension. Gasps filled the room as the weight of his revelation settled upon them. The implications were staggering, tampering with nature, crossing boundaries that should never be crossed. But that's not all. Jason continued sending over thoughts, his reptile face strained. He made them understand that distant beings are reaching out to him to make contact. He cannot fully understand their intentions, but it feels alarming. 13. Jacob starts his chase. Jacob sat in his unmarked white Tahoe, his gaze fixed on the dashboard as he listened intently to the police scanner. It crackled with urgency and sporadic bursts of static, the lifeline connecting him to the heart of the city's pulse. Evening was approaching upon Rochester, starting to cast shadows on the streets. A sudden call blared through the scanner, causing Jacob to sit up straighter in his seat. It was a distressed voice, trembling with fear and disbelief. The caller spoke in hurried words, their voice laced with terror. I just saw something inhuman, the local citizen stammered. It went into the old barn on the north side of Rochester, at the corner of Adams and Rochester Road. I've never seen anything like it. Jacob got excited, and coffee coursed through his veins. He knew he had to get there immediately. Gripping the steering wheel, he put the Tahoe into gear, its engine roaring to life as he peeled out onto the empty streets. As he sped towards the north side of the city, Jacob's mind raced with 1,000 possibilities. He was no stranger to the unknown. The aged barn came into view, standing stoically against the backdrop of the evening's burning red sky. Its time-worn wooden planks creaked in the wind, whispering of old memories. Jacob killed the engine and stepped out of the Tahoe, his senses sharpened and alert. Silence enveloped the surroundings, broken only by the distant call of a crow. Jacob approached the barn cautiously, his hand instinctively reaching for the weapon holstered at his side. Every step he took echoed through the stillness, amplifying the suspense in the air. As he reached the entrance of the barn, his nerves enhanced to an extremely high level of fight-or-flight mode. He pushed open the creaking door, revealing the faint scent of something formerly unknown. It was a smell that now he knew all too well, a scent that still haunted his dreams, and stirred up thoughts of the case in Zambia, the case that changed everything. He clenched his jaw, his mind flooded with memories of the woman who had transformed into that horrid creature. The vision of her twisted form plagued his every waking moment, a constant reminder of the darkness he had faced. His superiors, the higher-ups in the agency, had been adamant that he eliminate the creature. They claimed it was a matter of Earth's security, that it posed a threat beyond comprehension. And so, reluctantly, he had obeyed their orders. With his trusty .45 caliber handgun in hand, he had taken aim and fired a single shot through the creature's head, ending its existence. But before the trigger was pulled, something had stirred within Jacob. Visions, vivid and memorable, had flooded his mind. He saw a world at peace, where harmony between creatures and mankind was possible. He felt the regret in his own heart, then doubt gnawing at his conscience. Did he do the right thing? Had he killed something that meant no harm, something that was merely misunderstood? As he stood there in the empty barn, the memories of that fateful day washed over him like a tidal wave. He could not shake the feeling that there could have been another way, some other way than the fear and violence. Jacob stood alone in the barn. He pushed the memories aside, then focused on the current task of finding the creature. The scent of hay and that lizard thing lingering in the air. It had left the barn already. He knelt and examined the tracks on the ground, his fingers tracing the imprints left behind. There were the unmistakable footprints of the children, mixed with a set of massive, clawed marks that resembled those of a dinosaur. Following the tracks, he made his way down to the nearby river. The sound of rushing water filled his ears, mingling with the rustle of leaves and the distant cries of birds. The riverbank was lined with thick vegetation, a wall of green that seemed impenetrable. Jacob took a step forward, parting the brush with his hand, only to be met with a tangle of thorns and branches. Realizing that pushing through the dense undergrowth would only slow him down, Jacob decided to retrace his steps and consult the map he had brought along. He needed to find a vantage point, a place where he could survey the surrounding area and plan his next move. With a determined stride, Jacob made his way back to the Tahoe and pulled out the map. Unfolding it, he spread it across the dash, studying the intricate lines and symbols that marked the territory. His finger traced the river's path, from where he stood all the way to its ultimate destination. He contemplated the possible routes the children and the creature could take, analyzing every potential hiding spot and landmark along the way. As Jacob's eyes scanned the map, he couldn't shake the unsettling feeling that something far greater than a simple search and destroy mission was at stake. There was a hidden power lurking around Rochester, something ancient that sought to wield its influence in the world they inhabited. With a deep breath, Jacob folded the map and tucked it away, his mind now honed on finding the children and unraveling the mystery that lay before him. He needed a boat. He went and acquired a boat at once from the local fishing store and set afloat, ready to confront whatever awaited him on this journey down the river's edge. 14. Chase of intense confusion. The morning light streamed through the tattered curtains as the kids stirred on the wooden floor, waking up, their eyes heavy with exhaustion. They had spent a restless night in the decrepit old house, haunted by the traumatic events they had recently endured. Sleep had become a rare luxury, and their weary bodies showed the toll it had taken. As they groggily sat up, rubbing their eyes and stretching their cramped limbs, they knew they couldn't stay here for long and started planning their next move. However, Before they could finalize their plans, a frantic commotion erupted in the corner of the room. Jason was bouncing up and down in a frenzy. His reptilian instincts were kicking in once again, warning him of impending danger. The others turned their attention to him, their bleary eyes widening with concern. "What is it, Dad?" Connor asked. Jason's eyes darted around the room, his tail swishing anxiously. He blurted out thoughts to their conscious with fear and determination. "Someone's coming. Someone is coming." Their hearts pounded in their chests as they processed Jason's warning. In Jason's mind, flashes of images raced. His reptilian senses were projecting his vision. He saw a determined figure, clad in a dark suit. It was Jacob, the relentless agent tasked with capturing them. He saw Jacob's eyes narrow as he saw the old house they currently occupied. "Oh no," Cheyenne said, her voice trembling. "We have to run again. Now." There was no time for hesitation. The urgency of the situation propelled them into action. They quickly gathered their meager belongings, throwing them into tattered backpacks. Their survival instincts kicked in. As they rushed towards the back door, the wooden floorboards creaked beneath their hurried footsteps. As soon as they burst out of the door, the chilling sight of Jacob hauling his boat to shore sent their hearts racing. Jacob locked eyes with the kids and the creature. He looked very serious and moved extremely fast. Without hesitation, the kids darted toward the dense woods, the thorny branches scratching their arms as they pushed through. As they sprinted away from the house and river, their heavy breaths echoed through the trees, their pounding footsteps blending with the sounds of nature. Fear fueled their every stride, pushing them to run faster, to escape the clutches of the man who pursued them. Behind them, the sound of heavy feet crunching leaves grew closer. Glancing over his shoulder, Caleb saw Agent David's in black suit and shiny head emerge from the bushes. He was a merciless hunter, a predator in pursuit, and the gun gripped tightly in his hand made Caleb afraid. He wished that he had his bow and arrow, at least it be something that could protect them. The kids and Jason raced deeper into the woods. The trees whipped past them in a blurred frenzy of green and brown, their surroundings a chaotic blur as they navigated the uneven terrain. As the chase continued, the trees and foliage becoming their ally. But Jacob was relentless, his footsteps echoing closer. They had to find a way to shake him off. Gasping for breath, Caleb skidded to a halt, momentarily out of breath. He yelled to Jason. Jason's eyes gleamed with a blue intensity as he listened to Caleb's desperate suggestion. "Hey, Jason," Caleb panted, struggling to regain his composure. "Can you confuse that guy? Send images and visions to his mind? Maybe scare him off?" Jason's immense form seemed to ripple with anticipation as he nodded in understanding. His abilities transcended the limits of the ordinary world, making him a powerful ally. Jason closed his eyes, focusing his mind on the task at hand. A surge of energy radiated from Jason, and tendrils of unseen power slithered through the air, reaching out to touch the depths of Agent Jacob's consciousness. In an instant, Jacob's world twisted and contorted, his perception of reality shattered. Images and visions exploded within Jacob's mind like fireworks, each one more fantastical and terrifying than the last. The wilderness around him transformed into an ancient jungle teeming with all kinds of dinosaurs. Their thunderous roars echoed through the air, shaking the ground beneath his feet. As fear gripped Jacob, the visions morphed once more, shifting to extraterrestrial beings from distant places. Their alien forms danced through his thoughts, their eerie presence overwhelming. But despite the initial terror, Jacob realized that these visions were different. They were peaceful, showing a harmony between creatures and worlds that surpassed his understanding. He saw strange creatures living side by side, their differences bridged by a mutual respect. Humans stood shoulder to shoulder with extraordinary beings, embracing unity in a world of diverse cultures. Confusion and wonder filled Agent Jacob's head as he stumbled through the woods, his pursuit of the creature momentarily forgotten. He had been thrust into a world far beyond his comprehension, one that challenged his preconceived notions of reality and the limits of his own beliefs. As Caleb and the kids continued their escape, their heartbeats gradually slowed. Jason and his ability to manipulate the Jacob's mind had given them a vital advantage. Would Jacob abandon his chase, mesmerized by confusion and fear? Or would he only grow more determined to kill the creature? Confusion clouded his thoughts as Jacob decided to stop his pursuit of the creature and the children. Every instinct screamed at him to keep going, to find them. But the overwhelming fear and the inexplicable images burned into his brain had weakened his will to go on. His grip on reality wavered, and for now, he needed to retreat. Jacob stumbled out of the dense woods, his heart pounding in his chest. The visions that had assaulted his mind moments ago were still fresh, stuck to him like sticky spider webs. He could still feel the raw power coursing through his brain, a haunting echo of what he had felt and saw. With heavy steps, Jacob made his way back to the boat, headed upstream, and then back to his trusty Tahoe, parked near the barn. The vehicle stood as a beacon of familiarity, a haven from the chaos that had overtaken him. He fumbled with the keys, his hands trembling as he tried to calm the rapid beating of his heart. As he settled into the driver's seat, he took a moment to catch his breath. Jacob's mind raced, desperately searching for answers. What had caused those visions? Were they a warning, or perhaps a twisted trick of his own mind? He rubbed his temples, hoping to soothe the ache that throbbed within. He needed rest, a haven where he could gather his thoughts and make sense of the unfathomable. The thought of a hotel sounded amazing. He checked into the Rochester Grand Hotel. He needed to meditate on what just happened to him. 15. The paralyzing encounter. The kids and Jason continued stumbling through the dense undergrowth of the woods, their weary legs barely able to carry them any longer. Despair crept into their hearts. Lost in an unfamiliar wilderness, hope seemed like a distant memory. Just as their spirits reached their lowest point, a brilliant gleam caught their attention. They blinked, rubbing their eyes in disbelief. Illuminating before them was a shiny chrome metal craft, shaped like a colossal tic-tac. It hovered effortlessly, its ethereal presence both mesmerizing and eerie. The craft seemed almost transparent, blending seamlessly with the surrounding environment as it subtly shifted colors. A low hum emanated from the craft, vibrating through the air and causing the children to shudder. They stood rooted to their spot, their fear overshadowed by curiosity. And Than! Jason's muscles tensed, his instincts screaming at him to react, but before he could make a single move, an invisible force seized control of his body. Paralyzed, he stood frozen in place, unable to even twitch a muscle. Panic coursed through his reptile body as he desperately tried to shake off the invisible shackles that held him captive. His heart pounded in his chest like a war drum as fear and frustration waged a battle within him. A sudden surge of light erupted from above, casting an otherworldly glow over the entire area. The woods were bathed in an ethereal blue hue. Jason's scaly body was covered in the mysterious light beam, illuminating strange bluish colors, making him appear supernatural. A tracker beam materialized out of thin air, hovering above Jason like a spectral serpent. It snaked its way down, encircling his body with an electric current that pulsed and crackled with energy. It seemed to scan and probe, as if delving deep into his very essence, seeking information hidden within. Jason's mind raced, trying to comprehend what was happening. Who or what could possess such power to render him completely immobile? The cold grip of dread tightened around his heart, as he feared this might be the end of his journey, a cruel twist of fate that would see him fall at the hands of an unknown enemy. As the tracker beam continued its scan over his paralyzed form, strange symbols and glyphs began to materialize on its surface. They glowed with an otherworldly intensity, a language unknown to Jason, yet somehow familiar. It was as if the beam itself was decoding the secrets of his existence, unraveling the mysteries of his reptilian nature. As he fought and fought with all his might, the tracker beam faltered for a moment, flickering and wavering like a dying flame. The electric currents crackled and sparked, momentarily disrupted by Jason's defiance. Hope surged through his presence, rejuvenating his spirit, and he summoned every ounce of strength he possessed to break free from his paralytic prison. With a mighty roar, Jason shattered the invisible shackles that bound him, shattering the control of the tracker beam, the light vanishing as if it had never existed. Gasping for breath, Jason stood tall, ready to face whatever other challenges awaited him. Then the craft's transparency increased. It became like glass, clear as a window, and to their astonishment, they could now see humanoid figures within. These beings bore a striking resemblance to humans, but there was an otherworldly aura about them. As if piercing through the barrier of space and time, the beings began communicating with Jason and the children through telepathy. Their words echoed in their minds, weaving a tale of ancient persistence and extraordinary purpose. We have been attempting to decode a particular DNA sequence for countless millennia. The telepathic voices resonated within their heads. We have been awaiting the moment when our DNA, hidden in microbes, would finally infect something on Earth and successfully transform. This is the second occurrence of such a transformation since an event in Zambia. We have remained vigilant ever since, seeking signs of our evolution. Jason and the children exchanged bewildered glances, their minds struggling to process the enormity of the situation. What did they want? The telepathic conversation continued, addressing their unspoken questions. "Fear not, for we mean no harm," the beings reassured them. "At the moment, we lack the proper equipment to thrive in Earth's atmosphere, which is why we can't exit our craft. Our intentions are rooted in understanding this creature's evolution on Earth, not conquest or destruction. We want to live in peace. We don't have much time at the moment. We will return and reconnect with you again in the near future. We will share more information but for now, we must depart. We will return when we are better equipped." With those words, the craft began to gradually turn a chrome color again and shot off to space in an instant, fast as the blink of an eye. The children stood in the now empty woods, a mix of wonder, confusion, and lingering fear swirling within them. The encounter had unveiled a new layer of existence, revealing the existence of beings far beyond their comprehension. The children realized they were left to navigate their way out of the woods. However, a newfound spark of determination flickered within them. The encounter had reminded them that there was more to the world than what met the eye. 16. The Great Hunter. The weary group trudged along, their steps heavy and slow. They had been walking for miles, desperate to find safety and shelter amidst the chaos that had befallen their world. Hunger gnawed at their bellies, and fatigue threatened to overtake their spirits. As they rounded a bend in the woods, they saw the river again. A collective sigh of relief escaped their lips. Before them lay a stretch of calm water, shimmering in the afternoon sun. The river, though shallow, held the promise of sustenance. Connor's eyes lit up with hope. "We can try fishing here," he suggested. "We'll make some spears and catch ourselves a meal." The children's eyes brightened at the prospect of food, and their tired faces broke into faint smiles. They set to work, scouring the surrounding area for suitable branches and sharpening them into makeshift spears. They waded into the river, their spears poised and ready. Clark, the most athletic, had a natural knack as he thrust the spear into the water, eventually catching 2 medium-sized fish, a victory in the face of adversity. Not far from the river's edge, wild berries beckoned from within the dense undergrowth. The children scurried to collect the sweet morsels, their hands stained with their vibrant juices. Just as they thought that was all they had to eat, a rustling sound broke the silence. Jason, the enigmatic lizard creature with razor-sharp instincts, emerged from the bushes. His eyes glinted with a predatory gleam, and a feral smile curled his lips. Without hesitation, Jason leaped into action. His limbs moved with an otherworldly grace, emulating the swift movements of a wild animal. He stalked his prey with an uncanny precision, his skin and reptile form blending seamlessly into the surrounding foliage. Within moments, the woods came alive with the sounds of scurrying squirrels and startled rabbits. Jason's predatory prowess was on full display as he pounced on his unsuspecting targets, capturing them in a blur of motion. The group watched in awe and gratitude as he returned, a bundle of fresh meat clutched triumphantly in his scaled hands. With newfound hope, they kindled a fire and prepared a makeshift pot. They chopped wild onions and plucked ginger from the wood's floor. The scent of the simmering soup wafted through the air, teasing their senses and appetites. As they savored the fragrant broth, their exhaustion and hunger began to dissipate. The nourishing flavors of the meat mingled with the earthy aroma of the wild ingredients, revitalizing their weary bodies. Around the crackling fire, they shared stories of their journey and the things they had overcome. In that moment, as they relished the simple joy of a hearty meal, they knew that they were not alone. Jason, their reptilian friend's dad, had become more than a companion. He was a symbol of hope and the embodiment of their newfound strength. 17. The Island. The next morning, with bellies filled and spirits rejuvenated, they turned their attention to the materials around them. Fallen logs and sturdy branches were hauled together. They made a raft. With sore hands and determined spirits, they worked as a team, binding the materials tightly until their creation took shape. They headed down the river the next morning. As the makeshift raft floated upon the calm surface of the river, Caleb, the avid archer, began to carve a bow and arrow. His hands moved with purpose, his fingers coaxing life from a simple piece of wood. He knew that survival meant adaptation, and a bow and arrow would provide them with a means of defense and hunting. After floating for a while, Connor's eyes caught sight of something in the distance. The Clinton River widened, merging into a vast expanse of water that seemed to stretch to the ends of the earth. It was Lake St. Clair, a giant lake that bordered southeast Michigan and Canada. Though not as immense as the other Great Lakes, it still possessed a formidable presence, resembling an endless ocean. As they sailed out into the vast expanse of the giant lake, the water shimmered under the sun. The wind rustled through their hair as they maneuvered their sturdy raft through the gentle waves. In the distance, a small island emerged from the horizon. It seemed like a haven nestled amidst the vast blue. Their eyes met, and a silent understanding passed between them. They shared the same thought. This island could be the perfect hiding spot. With synchronized movements, they guided the raft toward the island, their muscles working in harmony to steer through the water. As the shoreline drew nearer, they felt a surge of relief, as if they had discovered an oasis in the midst of chaos. Finally, the raft glided onto the sandy shore, and they eagerly stepped onto solid ground. The air was filled with a faint scent of fish and the sweet melody of birdsong. It was a stark contrast to the dangers they had left behind, offering a momentary peace from their perilous journey. As they surveyed their surroundings, a sense of calm washed over them. The island was secluded, hidden away from prying eyes. Thick foliage shielded it from unwanted attention, ensuring their presence would remain a secret. They looked at each other, and a smile played on their lips. "This is it," Clark said, voice filled with a mix of relief and anticipation. "A perfect place to lay low. Who would find us out here? Probably nobody." Nodding in agreement, the others began exploring their newfound sanctuary. They traversed the sandy terrain. Birds darted overhead, their vibrant plumage a sight to behold. The island was teeming with life. As they ventured deeper into the heart of the island, a hidden cave entrance caught their attention. Its mouth beckoned, promising secrecy and a sanctuary within. "We'll make this our hideout," Connor declared. "Here, we can regroup, plan, and lay low." And so, the island became their refuge, a sanctuary that concealed their presence from the outside world. 18. Jacob's opening mind. Agent Davids paced back and forth in his fancy hotel room, the weight of his mission pressing heavily upon him. The dossier sat on the being a dedicated soldier, following orders without question. But something was gnawing at him. A seed of doubt had taken root deep within his mind. As he contemplated the events that had transpired, Jacob could not shake the nagging feeling that there was more to this creature than met the eye. It was so foreign, so different from anything he had encountered before. Maybe, just maybe, their human instincts were clouding their judgment, making them fear what they couldn't understand. His thought about the children he had encountered. They hadn't shown an ounce of fear from the creature. In fact, they seemed to be protecting each other, as if they shared an unbreakable bond. It was perplexing. Children were usually the most vulnerable and susceptible to fear, yet these kids defied the norm. It made him question the nature of the creature itself. And then there were the visions, strange, vivid images that had flashed before his eyes during the chase. Visions of peace, serenity, and unity. They were reminiscent of the visions he had witnessed while investigating a similar creature in Zambia, a lady creature that had evoked a sense of calm amidst chaos. The parallels were uncanny. As Jacob mulled over these thoughts, he realized that perhaps his perspective needed to change. Maybe there was a different way to approach this mission, a path that involved understanding rather than destruction. He had always been trained to be efficient and relentless, but now a different calling beckoned him. Could it be that the key to resolving this crisis lay not in bullets and explosions, but in forging a personal connection? Was it possible to communicate with the children and the creature on a deeper level, to unravel the mystery and find a peaceful solution? Jacob took a deep breath and made up his mind. He would stray from the predetermined path, deviating from his orders. He would explore this newfound perspective, embracing the unknown, and see if there was a way to bridge the gap between their worlds. Tomorrow, he would embark on a different kind of mission, one that required empathy, understanding, and an open mind. Agent Davids was ready to step into the uncharted territory, prepared to face the consequences of his choice, even if it meant disobeying orders and getting fired. Him and the world needed to know the truth. 19. The Alzath. Captain Zeroff maneuvered the Tic-Tac pod ship expertly as it glided through the interdimensional gateway, emerging on the other side of our physical realm. The mothership, an enormous metallic structure resembling a floating city, loomed in front of them. It crackled with energy, its foreign technology pulsating with an otherworldly glow. Inside the pod ship, a team of alien humanoids, known as the Alzath, prepared to disembark. Their frail, rubbery bodies were covered in a silver-blue skin with a shiny, smooth texture, and their eyes glowed with a blue light. They possessed knowledge and wisdom that spanned millions of years, having traversed the vastness of space and time. Millions of years ago, their mission was clear: to merge their DNA with the natural creatures of Earth and create a special hybrid race that could live on Earth. They wanted the hybrids to prosper, creating new technologies on Earth and discovering new science theories. They had attempted to merge their genetic material with the dinosaurs that once roamed the planet. But despite their advanced scientific prowess, the DNA failed to meld with the reptilian creatures. Frustration had forced them to abandon their mission, believing it to be an impossibility. However, recent events had rekindled their hope. Signals of a being from Earth had reached their advanced brainwaves emanating from a region known on Earth known as Zambia. These brainwave signals bore a striking resemblance to the Alzath people's brainwave frequencies, and they could tell the being had a similar genetic makeup like theirs, indicating a biological connection. Excitement coursed through their rubbery brains as they realized that the dormant agent microbes they had implanted within the creatures millions of years ago had evolved and adapted over time underground in the depths of the planet. The Alzath believed that the time had come for the ultimate experiment. They discovered when humans breathe in the microscopic organisms, this would initiate a process of infection and transformation, turning humans into reptilian creatures, the very hybrid species the Alzath had longed to create. Captain Zeroff docked the podship onto the mothership. The fate of two worlds hung in the balance. The Alzath had unlocked the secrets of interdimensional travel, bending the laws of space and time to their will. Now, they stood on the precipice of a monumental endeavor, a fusion of two civilizations across the cosmos, forever altering the course of history. Deep within the giant floating city of the Alzath, a pulsating hub of innovation and enlightenment, there was a buzz of excitement. The Alzath were a peaceful species known for their unwavering pursuit of knowledge. Hundreds of Alzath gathered in the grand chamber. The room was adorned with holographic screens displaying intricate schematics, while the air hummed with the anticipation of groundbreaking discoveries. Suzia, a respected elder of the Alzath, stood at the forefront of the assembly, her shimmering, iridescent bluish skin reflecting the vibrant hues of the luminescent crystals embedded in the walls. The Alzath were known for their serene nature, yet today a flicker of excitement emanated from Suzia's eyes. "Dear brethren," she began, her telepathic words sent out with a melodious resonance, "we stand at the precipice of a monumental opportunity. Our search for universal wisdom has led us to the blue and green planet known as Earth, where a new species has emerged. They possess a remarkable phenomenon of evolution, an intricate dance of genetic transformation." Murmurs of curiosity and awe rippled through the chamber. The Alzath were meticulous observers, constantly seeking innovative technologies and conducting experiments, but this discovery had ignited a fervor within them. The potential to unravel the secrets of DNA manipulation and become the architects of creation itself was an intoxicating prospect. Suzia continued, her skinny arms extending gracefully as if to embrace the possibilities that lay ahead. "Imagine, my fellow Alzath, the knowledge we could acquire from studying this evolving species. We could unlock the very essence of life, bending it to our will and ushering in an era of boundless possibilities." Yet, as the excitement mounted, a note of caution rang in Suzia's mental voice. "Let us not forget, my fellow Alzath, that the pursuit of knowledge is not without risk. Experimentation can yield unexpected consequences, and we must be prepared to confront them with the same resolute defense we employ for our own protection. We must tread carefully on this uncharted path, for the implications of tampering with the delicate balance of creation and existence could be dire." The Alzath exchanged glances, their glowing eyes flickering with a mixture of determination and apprehension. They were a species deeply rooted in peacefulness, but their insatiable hunger for knowledge pushed them to explore the boundaries of the universe. The potential rewards were great, but so were the potential risks. Suzia raised her mental voice, infused with unwavering resolve. "Let it be known that we shall proceed with caution, armed with wisdom and reverence for the natural order. Our pursuit of universal knowledge is noble, but we must never forget our duty to protect the sanctity of life. May the balance guide us, and may our endeavors bring enlightenment to both us and the cosmos." 20. A new mission. Jacob stood in the center of his luxurious hotel room. The mission had been assigned to him directly by the agency's top brass: find and kill the thing, a testament to his skill and reputation as a seasoned agent. He knew that this was not an ordinary assignment, but now it was personal. He's seen and felt things like never before. He paced back and forth, his eyes fixed on the large, detailed maps spread across the bed. The maps displayed the intricate network of rivers and tributaries that snaked their way through the dense woods of the unknown territory. It was in these very waters that the children and the creature had gone. His instincts told him that the river would be the key. They must have taken it downstream, he muttered to himself. The river would be the most logical escape route. Jacob was not just a skilled operative. He was a man driven by a different set of principles. He believed in finding the truth, even in the face of money and power. He had seen enough bloodshed and destruction to know that violence was not always the answer. "I won't just shoot and kill first," he vowed to himself, clenching his fists. "I will try to forge a peaceful bond, to understand the motives behind this creature's actions. Maybe then I can uncover the truth." The thought of negotiating with a dangerous entity sent through him a real, shaking fear and excitement. But he knew it was the only way. If he rushed in, guns blazing, he would risk losing any chance of understanding the true nature of these unreal events. Jacob had learned the hard way that sometimes the greatest enemy was not the unknown beast or the men with power, but the fear that clouded one's judgment. With his resolve solidified, Jacob gathered his gear and prepared for the arduous journey ahead. He had his maps, his survival equipment, and most importantly, his determination to uncover the truth, and he would not rest until they were found and the mystery unraveled. As he left his lavish hotel room behind, stepping out into the parking garage, Agent David's secret phone buzzed with its distinct buzzing pattern. He glanced at the screen, recognizing the encrypted number. With a sigh, he tapped the device in his ear to answer the call. "Hurry up, Agent Davids," a stern voice barked on the other end. "Take care of the creature in Michigan. We need you somewhere else. There has been another incident in South America. Reports suggest a reptile humanoid creature thing roaming the hills." Jacob tensed, his mind racing with the urgency of the situation. "I'm sorry, but I'm in the middle of a mission here," Jacob responded firmly, his voice laced with purpose. "These creatures are cunning and elusive. You will have to assign someone else to the South America case. I can't afford any distractions. I'm focused here." The voice on the other end paused for a moment, contemplating Agent David's request. Finally, a gruff reply came through the phone. "All right, Davids. We'll handle South America. You focus on Michigan. But we need updates as soon as possible. We can't let these creatures wreak havoc any longer." "I understand," Jacob affirmed, already planning his next moves. "I'll update you as soon as I can." Ending the call, Agent Jacob sprang into action. He rushed with keys in hand and quickly packed and climbed into his white Tahoe. The engine roared to life as he accelerated out the parking structure down the street, speeding towards his destination. The old house on the river from their previous encounter served as his starting point. Arriving at the abandoned house, he parked the Tahoe and wasted no time. Jacob grabbed his gear and the boat he recently purchased. He carried it all down to the dilapidated dock, his eyes scanning the murky water. He launched the boat into the water and threw in his supplies. Jacob climbed in and grabbed the oars. He rowed through the calm river with purpose. He needed to understand the new unknown power he was exposed to from the creatures. 21. A similar signal. The kids and Jason had found an unlikely harmony on the lake island. Despite the circumstances that had brought them there, they were beginning to enjoy their time together. The weather was remarkably pleasant, with the sun casting a warm golden glow over the sandy shore. Jason, the resourceful and adept hunter, easily provided food for the group with his reptile-like hunting skills. His acute senses allowed him to track and catch prey swiftly, ensuring they had nourishment to sustain them on this secluded island. As the children busied themselves with preparing a meal and organizing their new cave home, Jason sat alone on the beach, his gaze fixed on the horizon. His reptilian eyes bore a look of intense concentration, his mind focused on something beyond the physical realm. In the distance, waves crashed gently against the shore, providing a soothing soundtrack to their activities. The kids stole glances at Jason, curious by the unusual sight. However, sensing his deep engagement, they decided to leave him be for the moment, respecting his need for solitude. Unknown to them, Jason was not merely lost in thought or daydreaming. Jason's heightened senses were attuned to the signals coming into his mind. Like a distant echo, he picked up something remarkable. It was as if an invisible thread connected him to another being, someone or something akin to his own nature. There was another creature, like him, somewhere on this planet. It emitted brain signals that resonated with loneliness, fear, and a desperate yearning for answers and assistance. Jason's reptilian instincts allowed him to tap into a primal connection that transcended mere physicality, enabling him to sense the distress signals of another being on Earth. His scaly fingers pushed into the warm sand as he focused his thoughts, attempting to decipher the source and location of these signals. The connection grew stronger, each pulse of someone longing for a connection, a person, or being that was feeling confused and alone. These messages or feelings reverberated through his mind, amplifying his need to find the one sending out these distress signals. Jason's eyes snapped open, their blue hue glimmering. He rose from his spot on the shore and turned toward the kids, who had finished their chores and now watched him with curiosity. "There's another here," Jason messaged to their minds from his mental voice. "A being like me, or perhaps similar. They're alone, feeling scared, and seeking help. We need to find them." "Wow," Clark exclaims. "That means another person has been infected with that old DNA from the alien experiments." They all just stand in silent shock. "Can you find out where they are?" Connor asks his dad. Jason nods his big creature head with a look of, "I don't know, I'll give it a try." Jason stood on the remote island, his eyes fixed on the distant horizon, the sun starting to dip below the shimmering waves. The air carried a sense of an ethereal electricity as he extended his consciousness far beyond his physical form, reaching out with his telepathic reptile alien power. Today, he sought contact with a fellow creature. The urgency burned within him as he delved into the recesses of his mind, and he projected his thoughts outward, searching for any semblance of a response. But the signals that came back were weak, muddled, and filled with confusion. It was as if his mental tendrils were brushing against the hazy outskirts of another consciousness, yet unable to penetrate its core. Jason furrowed his forehead, his reptilian eyes narrowing in concentration. "This being is unlike any I've encountered before," he muttered out his thoughts. "Its mind is still untamed and unlearned. It lacks the natural instincts and control over its powers." Jason, understanding the nuances of his own reptilian body, had been a journey of trial and error. Through meticulous exploration and countless moments of introspection, he had honed his skills and mastered his newfound abilities. But this unknown creature, wherever it may be on Earth, had yet to reach that stage of self-discovery. Jason and the kids knew that they had to remain patient, to persist in this pursuit of connection. And so, they all decided to stay on the island, using it as a base to establish contact with the other potential being that shared his extraordinary brain frequency. As the night settled in, Jason's mind echoed with the distant whispers of an untapped connection. "Somewhere out there, another like me exists," he thinks to himself, "and I will find them. Together, we shall ease each other's lonely isolation from their confusing new bodies." 22. Jacob's Delta. Jacob's muscles ached as he rowed his small boat downstream, the oars cutting through the water with determined force. Sweat dripped down his forehead, mingling with the dirt and grime that coated his face. He refused to give up. The truth for Earth's people depended on his relentless pursuit. The river delta loomed ahead, opening up to the vast expanse of St. Clair Lake. As he entered the lake, the magnitude of the body of water struck him. It was like an endless ocean, its shores stretching far beyond the horizon. With each passing mile, Jacob's hopes sank. He couldn't shake the thought that the kids and their strange ally, the creature, may have met their demise in these expansive waters. Jacob guided his boat closer to the shoreline, scanning the surroundings for any signs of life. He couldn't help but feel a pang of despair. The odds of finding the children alive seemed bleak. Nevertheless, he refused to let doubt consume him. Ducking his boat beneath an overhanging tree branch, Jacob's eyes fell upon a small lakefront town, nestled along the edge of the lake. Some hope ignited within him. Perhaps the children sought refuge there, or left some traces of their presence behind. He secured his boat to a weathered dock and stepped onto solid ground, his legs stiff from hours of rowing. The town exuded a quaint charm, with cottages lining the shore and the sound of seagulls in the air. Despite the picturesque setting, Jacob's mind remained focused on the task at hand. He roamed the streets, his eyes sharp, searching for any signs that could lead him closer to the children or the elusive creature. Every shop, every house, every corner he inspected meticulously, his determination unwavering. Yet, as the day faded into evening, his search yielded no fruit. Fatigue gnawed at Jacob's bones, his body yearning for rest. He trudged wearily through the streets until he found a local hotel with a neon sign flickering in the twilight. With a sigh of resignation, he checked into a small room, its walls adorned with faded paintings of the lake. As Jacob sank into the worn mattress, his mind raced. Where could the children be? Was the creature still protecting them, or had they all fallen victim to the unforgiving lake? Sleep eluded him, his thoughts consumed by the relentless pursuit that had become his life. Jacob woke up with a start, his heart pounding in his chest. Beads of sweat dotted his forehead as he struggled to catch his breath. It had been another sleepless night, plagued by relentless thoughts of the creatures. As he sat up on the creaky bed, he gazed out the window of his old lake shoreline hotel. The morning sun cast a warm golden glow across the tranquil waters, creating an illusion of peace that was completely opposite of the turmoil inside Jacob's mind. He knew he couldn't afford to waste another moment. Today, he had to find them, and nothing would stand in his way. Jacob threw on a worn-out jacket and hastily made his way downstairs. The hotel's receptionist gave him a sympathetic look as he passed by, sensing the distress pasted on his face. "Good morning, sir. Rough night?" she asked softly. Jacob nodded, unable to find words to articulate the storm raging within him. He had long abandoned hope of finding acceptance or understanding from those around him. The path he treaded was a lonely one, a solitary quest for truth and peace. Stepping outside, he inhaled the crisp morning air, hoping it would invigorate him. The weather had been surprisingly forgiving, with clear skies and a gentle breeze sweeping across the lake. It was a sign, a glimmer of hope that today would be different. Walking towards the marina, Jacob's eyes fixated on the fleet of motorboats bobbing gently on the water. He approached the rental counter. After a brief exchange with the attendant, he secured a small motorboat for the day, his only companion in the vast expanse of the lake. As he climbed into the boat, Jacob's mind buzzed with possibilities. The map he had painstakingly studied last night was tucked safely in his pocket, guiding his journey across the sprawling lake. He gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles popping and changing color as he envisioned the triumph of finding the missing children and forging a new bond with the creature. The engine roared, sending vibrations through his body. Jacob's gaze fixed straight ahead, his focus unyielding. With every passing moment, the shoreline retreated, leaving behind the comfort of solid ground and leading him deeper into the unknown. The boat glided across the calm waters, leaving a trail of ripples in its wake. He knew the dangers that awaited him, the risks he was taking, but he could not turn back now. The truth of the unknown was at stake, and he would not rest until he understood what these creatures were. He would search every nook and cranny of the lake, following the whispers of his intuition, and fighting against all odds. The creature and kids may have thought they were hidden on their island, but they had severely underestimated Jacob's unwavering fire that burned within him. 23. The Truce. Jacob has been floating across the large lake, relentlessly looking for signs of the creature and the kids. Finally, in the distance, Jacob sees an island. Jacob heads toward the island and pulls his boat ashore. Typically, Jason would be made aware of Agent David's, of the impending intruder with this reptile instincts. However, Jason was very distracted, trying to make that connection of a similar creature somewhere on Earth he has been sensing recently. Also, Jacob is not bringing danger anymore. Jacob has a new resolve to connect with the creature and kids with a new peaceful approach. As he was walking through the brush, he sees signs of human life everywhere. He knows they are here on the island. Cheyenne was gathering firewood, and she looked down the trail and saw Jacob. She started running as fast as she could, yelling to Jason and the boys, "Run! Run! The agent is on the island, run! Run! He's here!" Jacob yells back at Cheyenne, "Please, please, stop! I come in peace. I mean no harm. I just want to talk. I need to help you. Very important, powerful government agencies are trying to kill you. I can help. We need to talk." The island was small, and sound traveled easily. Jason and the boys heard the commotion and started running towards it. They were face to face with each other. The creature and kids were staring at Jacob, nobody knowing what their next move would be. Jacob's heart pounded in his chest as he stood face to face with Jason, the creature, and the kids. The tension in the air was heavy, and he could see the fear and uncertainty in their faces. He took a step forward, his hands raised in a gesture of peace. "Please listen to me," Jacob pleaded, his voice filled with sincerity. "I mean you no harm. I have been searching for you tirelessly, trying to find a way to help. There are powerful government agencies out there who want to kill you. I can protect you, provide you with intelligence." Jason, his glowing blue eyes narrowed, regarded Jacob with a mix of caution and curiosity. The children, huddled close to their guardian, looked at Jacob with a combination of fear and longing. The bond between the kids and creature was undeniable, and Jacob understood the weight of his words. "There's another creature now," Jacob continued, his voice steady, "but I believe there's more to these creatures and events. There is a reason why I feel peace through brainwaves from you creatures. I am searching for a greater understanding and truth. My bosses and secret governments want the creatures annihilated. Those are my orders. Since I had visions of peace in my mind from this creature and another one in Zambia, I want to understand, not hurt or kill. I can help you kids hide, stay alive, and search for answers." Silence hung heavy in the air as Jason and the kids contemplated Jacob's words. Then, slowly, Connor lowered his guard. His young kid form relaxed, and a glimmer of hope flickered in his eyes. "My dad, Jason here. Now a strange creature has been sensing the other being. We want to connect with it. Jacob says, I know where it is. My higher-ups informed me. There is a similar creature to your father in the hills of Argentina, South America." Cheyenne, still panting from her earlier sprint, stepped forward cautiously. "Jason, we can't trust him. We don't know what he's capable of, she warned, her voice filled with concern for her friends. Jacob turned his attention to Cheyenne, his gaze earnest. I understand your caution, but I assure you, I've changed. I've come to realize that violence won't solve anything. I want to make things right, to find a way for all of us to coexist peacefully. Trust me, Cheyenne. Trust me, Jason. The creature's gaze shifted between Jacob and Cheyenne, contemplating the choices before him. The children, their eyes filled with a mix of fear and hope, clung to Jason's side. And then, with a slow nod, Jason made his decision. Jason grunted, nodding his head with a deep sense of purpose. Connor said, "We will listen, but if you betray us or pose a threat, there will be consequences. Jason can mess up your mind with nightmares." Jacob's face lit up with gratitude, his resolve shining through his eyes. "Thank you, Jason. Thank you, kids. You won't regret this. Together, we can find a way to change the world." As the tension eased and a fragile alliance formed, the island remained a place to hide. The future was uncertain, but hope burned bright within their hearts. They were about to embark on an even bigger journey that would test their power to stay strong in the face of adversity. 24. Carmen Zapata. Carmen Zapata was a young woman in her 20s, hailing from the vibrant city of Buenos Aires, Argentina. She led a normal good life with a loving family. Carmen's father, once a renowned soccer player, had transitioned into coaching. On a sunny afternoon, he decided to take Carmen along to visit the excavation site for a massive new sports arena. The air was filled with the noise of giant tractors and excavators diligently hauling dirt out of the massive dig sites. Carmen's father looked around with excitement, envisioning the day he would watch his team play in the completed stadium. "I can't wait to see our team in action here, Carmen," he exclaimed, a proud smile on his face. "Thanks for coming along today, my dear." "Any time, father," Carmen replied warmly, her voice slightly muffled by a cough caused by the dust swirling in the air. "It's always nice to spend time with you." As they made their way to a restaurant, Carmen's fatigue increased. She felt an unusual heaviness weighing down her body. "I feel tired, Dad. Can you take me home?" she requested. "I might have caught a bug." "Absolutely, my honey. We'll have dinner another time. When you feel better." Then her father merged onto the highway and drove her back home. Carmen entered her room, fell on her bed, and was asleep in seconds. When she awoke, her skin took on an otherworldly appearance as it transformed into shimmering reptilian scales. Her eyes glowed with a captivating light blue hue, betraying her human face. In agony, Carmen grappled with the pain coursing through her body. The transformation into a reptilian creature was both terrifying and involuntary. She longed for the presence of her boyfriend, who was away attending a university seminar. But fate had a different plan in store for her. Her boyfriend was away attending a university seminar. With no one around to witness her shocking transformation, she found herself alone in her reptilian state. She could barely remember what she was before, and she didn't know who or what she was now. Just as she was grappling with her altered appearance in the mirror, her boyfriend returned home unexpectedly. Pushing the door open, he was met with a sight beyond comprehension. Shocked and frozen in place, he struggled to process the monstrous creature standing before him. "Ah! Holy crap! What are you?" he yelled, his voice shaky with fear and disbelief. Carmen, in her reptilian form, stared back at him, the glowing scales and sharp claws making her look like the scariest demon thing he had ever seen. Breathing heavy, She just stared. Then, reacting purely on instinct, Carmen fled the scene as fast as she could. Guided by unfamiliar instincts, she sprinted through small towns and across remote hills. She sought refuge in the seclusion of the wilderness, hiding from the world that would never understand her plight. In the quiet solitude, Carmen wrestled with her dual existence. Her human side longed for the love and companionship she once had, while her reptilian side craved freedom and acceptance. Alone in the wilderness, she contemplated her place in the world and the choices she had to make. Carmen had become an alien humanoid reptile, forever changed by a mysterious force, eventually finding refuge in the remote hills of Bella Vista, Argentina. And there, in the remote hills, Carmen continued her solitary existence, wrestling with the newfound powers she possessed. 25. Agent Bowers. Agent Bowers stood in the midst of the lively wedding reception, surrounded by music, laughter, and the joyful clinking of glasses. Dwayne, his neighbor and close friend, was finally tying the knot with his Nicaraguan bride. Bowers had grown fond of Dwayne's company over the years. Their friendship grew through countless evenings spent on their street, sipping beers and sharing stories. As Bowers raised his glass to toast the newlyweds, his pocket vibrated. He fished out his phone, glancing at the caller ID. It displayed a series of encrypted numbers, confirming it was the secret agency he worked for. With a curious frown, he stepped away from the crowd and answered the call. "Agent Bowers here," he greeted in a hushed tone, trying not to draw attention to himself. A voice, disguised and distorted, crackled through the phone's speaker. "Agent Bowers, I know you're on vacation, but we have a code crimson. We need you immediately." Bowers' heart skipped a beat. Code crimson meant that a threat of utmost urgency loomed, endangering not just a single individual or organization, but potentially the entire world. He glanced at the happy scene unfolding before him, conflicted between his duty and the desire to celebrate this special occasion with his friend. "Where am I needed?" Bowers asked, suppressing the slight tremor in his voice. "We've secured a plane ticket for you to Buenos Aires in Argentina," the voice replied. "Once you land, a car will be waiting to transport you to Bella Vista, a small city on the outskirts. Reports have come in about an alien lizard creature roaming the hills. Your expertise is required." Bowers tightened his grip on the phone. He was a man who took pride in his physical prowess, maintaining a disciplined workout routine and staying in peak condition. His girlfriend, a beautiful woman with a knockout smile, stood a short distance away, unaware of the conversation taking place. He knew she understood the nature of his work and the sacrifices it demanded. He approached her, taking her delicate hand in his, and looked deep into her eyes. "I'm sorry, my love," he whispered softly. "Something has come up that involves world safety. Duty calls, and I must answer." She nodded, her eyes filled with a mix of pride and concern. "Go, Agent Bowers. Protect us all." He leaned in and kissed her tenderly, savoring the warmth of their connection before reluctantly letting go. He hurriedly made his way to bid farewell to Dwayne and his new bride, explaining his sudden departure with a vague excuse. Agent Bauer's sense of duty superseded personal desires. As he boarded the plane to Argentina, he braced himself to confront the lizard creature that threatened the peace and security of Bella Vista and beyond. 26 plane tickets. Jacob, Jason, and the group of kids huddled together, their minds working furiously to devise a plan. "I've got an idea," Jacob blurted. "We'll have to play incompetent. I'm going to contact my government agency and trick them. I will tell them that the creature has disappeared without a trace, and I can't locate it. Tell them maybe it was picked up by aliens, or it died somewhere. Tell them the trail went cold, and I'll make it up to them in South America. The group nodded, ready to hear more. Once they believe the creature has vanished, Jacob continued, they'll want to fly me to Buenos Aires to capture or kill the other creature. Jacob explained, his voice laced with calculated confidence. In order to find and confront the other creature, I'll need you with me in Buenos Aires. Jason will be able to find the other being with his mental connection. I'll arrange for your tickets, and I'll get a separate military cargo ticket and hide Jason in a box as cargo. It's risky, but it's our best chance to get close without raising suspicion. The children were afraid, but they also knew they couldn't stand idly by while Jason and the world needed answers. With a nod of determination, they agreed to the plan. The boat sliced through the calm waters as the group, with Jacob at the helm, made their way back to the quaint little lake town Jacob had visited before. Now, with Jason securely covered under a tarp, they needed to transport him discreetly. As they arrived at the marina, the team carefully carried Jason in a fishing net, ensuring he remained hidden from prying eyes. They swiftly loaded him into the back of Jacob's Tahoe, ensuring that no part of their unusual cargo was exposed. Their next destination was the airport in Detroit, where they would make the necessary travel arrangements to ensure Jason's safety. En route, they meticulously planned their journey. Buenos Aires Airport would serve as their meeting point, where they would regroup before embarking on their mission in the town of Bella Vista. It was there that they hoped to find another creature akin to Jason, seeking answers to this enigma. But first, they needed to secure Jason for the long trip. Making a quick detour, they stopped at a nearby Lowe's hardware store. Inside, they gathered materials to build a travel crate that would conceal Jason and keep him safe from prying eyes. The team worked with focused determination, constructing the crate with precision, making sure it provided enough ventilation and security for their extraordinary passenger. As they left the hardware store, they were all seated in the Tahoe, headed down the freeway. Suddenly, a loud fart sound fills the air. Cheyenne laughing uncontrollably. "Oh my gosh! It wasn't me." Caleb smiling. "Yeah, right, Cheyenne. We all know you. You're laughing too much, the jig is up." Clark giggling. "Seriously, Cheyenne? You couldn't hold it in for another few minutes?" Cheyenne teary-eyed from laughter. "I couldn't help it. It just slipped out, guys. Blame the raw island food." Connor rolling down the window. "Please, Cheyenne, for the sake of our noses, can we have some fresh air?" Caleb says, "Cheyenne, you could start a new airline service with that kind of air quality. Cheyenne's Fragrant Airways." Cheyenne laughing even harder. Connor laughing along. "I can already see the slogan. Fly high, but beware of a different kind of turbulence." "It's okay, just let it out on Cheyenne's Fragrant Airways." They all burst into laughter, the car filled with camaraderie. Jacob still chuckling. "All right, Cheyenne, next time we'll book you an aisle seat, just in case of any more explosive surprises." Through the laughter, they continue their uncertain journey, fueled by their desire to help Jason. With the crate securely fastened in the back of the Tahoe, they resumed their drive toward Detroit. The hum of the engine purred. As the skyline of Detroit loomed closer, they mentally prepared themselves for the next leg of their journey. 27. Bowers in Bella Vista. Agent Bowers stood in the heart of Bella Vista, a quaint town nestled at the edge of the wilderness. With his sunglasses on and a rugged leather jacket Adorning his broad frame, he looked every bit the seasoned agent he was. His intense gaze scanned the surroundings, taking in the energy of the town, and he couldn't help but feel impatient. He had been assigned to investigate reports of a menacing creature that had been terrorizing the townsfolk, lurking in the rural hills just outside of Bella Vista. The witness accounts were varied and often conflicting, but one thing remained consistent. The creature was real, and it was Bauer's responsibility to uncover the truth and eliminate the threat. He called and set an appointment with Officer Garcia from the local police department. With a determined gaze, he approached the local law enforcement stationed nearby, their uniforms adorned with the emblem of the Bella Vista Police Department. Officer Garcia, a weathered veteran with a salt and pepper beard, met Bowers with a cautious but intrigued expression. "Agent Bowers, right? We've been expecting you," Garcia greeted him, adjusting his hat. "Folks are on edge around here, scared of what they've been seeing. Strange sightings, eerie noises. I can't say I blame 'em." Bowers nodded, his mind already racing with possibilities. He wanted to wrap up this mission as quickly as possible, not just to save the town from the threat, but also to return to his personal life. A well-deserved vacation with his girlfriend was awaiting him. "Officer Garcia, I need to gather as much information as possible," Bowers said, his voice laced with urgency. "Tell me everything you know about the creature, the sightings, any patterns." Garcia cleared his throat and scratched his chin, deep in thought. "Well, it started about a week ago. We started getting reports of strange sightings in the hills, but folks brushed it off as animals or something. Then came the even more sightings. People claimed they saw a massive, shadowy figure moving swiftly through the trees." "Any physical descriptions?" Bowers asked, his curiosity piqued. "Not much, I'm afraid," Garcia admitted. "Everyone describes it differently. Some say it's a lizard-like creature with gleaming blue eyes. Others mention a hulking, humanoid shape. All we know for sure is that it's real, and it's out there." Bowers nodded, his mind focused on the task at hand. He bombarded the sheriff with questions. The sheriff pointed him towards witnesses who had encountered the creature firsthand, and Bowers wasted no time in tracking them down. As he moved from one witness to another, Bowers pieced together a rough profile of the creature. It was tall, with glowing eyes that shone with a blue light. Witnesses described it as having immense strength and agility, with razor-sharp claws that could tear through solid wood. The reports suggested that the creature was very fast and confused them when they looked at it in the eyes. Bowers now knew the wilderness area the creature was in and set off. As the sun began to rise over the town, Agent Bowers had rented a quad ATV and ventured into the rural hills. The creature awaited him there, lurking in trees and brush, and he was determined to face it head-on. He took a deep breath and drove off into the unknown, ready to bring an end to this nightmare and return to the vacation he so desperately craved. 28. They find Carmen. The four kids stepped off the plane in Buenos Aires, nervous anticipation bubbling within them. They had traveled across continents, driven by a singular purpose to protect Connor's dad and this new other creature. As they entered the bustling airport, their eyes darted around, searching for their new ally, Agent Jacob Davids. Suddenly, a familiar face emerged from the crowd, a stocky and strong figure with intense eyes and a determined expression. Jacob extended a hand toward the kids, a wry smile playing on his lips. "Welcome to Buenos Aires," Jacob greeted them warmly. "I'm glad you made it safely. Time is of the essence, so let's not waste a moment." Eager to retrieve the crate that concealed Connor's transformed father, they hurried towards the cargo pickup area. Amidst the maze of crates and bustling airport personnel, they located the designated section. A sense of urgency gripped them as they scanned the crates, looking for the one with Jason. With Jacob leading the way, they hurriedly made their way to the correct crate with the hidden stow away. Then they loaded up a rented van parked nearby. Once inside, the engine roared to life. They drove to a remote spot, unpacked Jason, and continued the drive toward Bella Vista. Jacob's voice cut through the tension while driving. "We've got a situation." Confused, the kids turned to Jacob. He continued, his voice low but urgent. "There's another agent here, one who's after the other creature. We must find them before he does. His intentions are far from noble, and if he gets to the creature, we might not be able to save them." A shiver ran down their spines as they absorbed the gravity of the situation. Their mission had just become even more perilous. They nodded in unison. "We won't let that happen," Connor declared, his voice firm. "We'll find the creature first and ensure its safety." As the van sped through the vibrant streets of Buenos Aires, Jacob provided further details and seemed concerned. "This other agent is relentless, skilled, and dangerous. We can't underestimate him. Our advantage is that we have Jason, and he doesn't know we're here." Getting close to Bella Vista, Agent Jacob was driving cautiously, his eyes occasionally darting to the rearview mirror as he navigated the rugged terrain. In the back, Jason, the extraordinary creature, could feel the tension building. "Jason," Agent Jacob said, glancing back at him, "now's the time. Try to reach out and locate the other being with your mind powers. We need to find her before it's too late." Jason nodded solemnly, closing his eyes to concentrate. Deep within himself, he felt the familiar tingling sensation, and his eyes began to glow a brilliant shade of blue. His skin shimmered with iridescent colors, like a dazzling star in a dark sky. He reached out with his mind, seeking a connection with the other being, the one in desperate need of their help. "I sense her," Jason expressed, with his brain waves. "She's scared, but she's still holding on." With every passing second, the connection between Jason and the other being grew stronger. He could feel her emotions, her fear, and her hope. He knew she was aware of their approach, but couldn't fully comprehend their intentions yet. "I have to reassure her," Jason expressed to the others. "I will tell her we're coming to help, that she's not alone." Jason transmitted the message mentally, hoping that it would reach the distressed being. He focused all his energy on maintaining the connection, and gradually he sensed her acceptance of their aid. She understood that they were friends, not foes, and that they were coming to her rescue. As they approached Bella Vista, Jason's heart pounded with anticipation. He guided Agent Davids to turn down a barely visible dirt road that seemed almost concealed by the surrounding wilderness. The vehicle bounced and jolted as they continued along the winding path until they reached the end. "Everyone, get out," Jason wildly gestured, enthusiastic unease vibrating from his body language. Waving his arms, he had them follow him up the hill. They followed Jason into the dense underbrush, running and maneuvering through the wilderness. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the landscape. As they made their way up the hills, the buzzing sound of an engine echoed in the distance, growing louder with each step they took. Agent Jacob exchanged a worried look with the others. "We need to hurry," he said, urging them forward. "The situation might be worse than we anticipated." Jason's mind remained connected to her, and he could sense that she was aware of their progress. Her fear was now mixed with hope, knowing that help was drawing near. The group emerged from the dense brush onto a rocky outcrop, and there, from higher ground, down in the valley's tree canopy, they saw her, a majestic being, her luminescent form glowing softly in the shadows of the trees. "We're here to help," Jason projected his thoughts to her, careful to reassure her. "We won't let anyone harm you." As if in response, the being emitted a gentle grunting hum, expressing her gratitude for their presence. But before they could reach her, the buzzing engine sound grew louder and more menacing. "We have company," Agent Davids warned, his hand instinctively reaching for his weapon. "We need to act fast." 29. Genuine connection. Carmen, now an elusive creature, crouched low by the riverbank, her lizard-like body poised gracefully as she quenched her thirst. Her emerald scales shimmered in the sunlight that filtered through the lush canopy above. The tranquility of the moment was shattered by the distant roar of Agent Bauer's quad engine, its mechanical symphony reverberating through the once quiet hills. Instinct took over Carmen, and her heart quickened with fear. The creature's eyes widened as she registered the sound growing closer. Without hesitation, she sprang into motion, her nimble form blending seamlessly with the lush surroundings. With each bound, Carmen's powerful legs propelled her higher into the air, enabling her to reach the refuge of the treetops. Her agile movements allowed her to ascend with incredible grace, her tail trailing behind as she moved through the treetops like Tarzan. Hidden amidst the rustling foliage, she observed the clearing below, her heart pounding in her chest. Agent Bauer, a seasoned tracker, arrived at the river's edge, his gaze narrowing as he surveyed the scene. His eyes settled on Carmen's unique tracks, imprinted in the soft earth, unmistakable signs of her recent presence. The creature's footprints displayed a rare sight, like a dinosaur, a testament to her extraordinary existence. A wry smile played at the corners of Agent Bauer's lips as he recognized the significance of his discovery. He would find it in no time now, he thought. Bauer's sharp eyes scanned the towering trees, his gaze methodical and calculating. He knew the creature was near. His heart quickened with anticipation, the thrill of the chase coursing through his veins. Carmen caught a flicker of movement below. Bauer had detected her presence. She knew she had to act swiftly to maintain her freedom. With a single, fluid motion, she leaped from one tree branch to another, her limber body navigating the heights with unparalleled grace. Branches swayed and leaves rustled as she made her way deeper into the forest, leaving Agent Bauer in her wake. Carmen's mind raced, her instincts sharpened by the chase. She knew she had to outsmart the hunter, for her life depended on it. As the forest enveloped her, she zigzagged through the treetops for what seemed miles, not leaving any prints and throwing him off track for a little while. As Carmen clung to the branches of the dense trees, her heart pounded with fear. She had been hiding, hoping to evade the relentless pursuer that had been tracking her. Suddenly, a new sensation washed over her, a subtle, telepathic signal. It was alien, yet strangely familiar, tugging at the depths of her mind. Her reptilian instincts recognized the presence as a similar being, one who sought to help her. Intrigued and inexperienced in such psychic connections, Carmen took a deep breath and attempted to open her mind further. It was very difficult because she could not calm down easily. She had just been chased. As she finally calmed a little, the telepathic signals grew stronger, resonating with her soul. A surge of hope filled her and she welcomed this newfound connection. Through it, she sensed that her mysterious supporter was closing in, homing in on her location. However, hope was swiftly overshadowed by a growing sense of danger. A low, ominous engine hum resonated in the air, growing louder and closer with each passing moment. Carmen's heart sank as she realized that her pursuers were still on her trail, and they were rapidly closing in. Just as panic threatened to overwhelm her, the telepathic voice echoed in her mind. It was Jason. His voice carried a mix of hope, concern, and determination, and it was exactly what she needed in that moment. "Hi, we're coming for you." "Hang on." Jason's mental message reached her, and she felt an instant kinship with him. They shared a bond, forged through their unique likeness and the understanding of what it meant to be different, misunderstood, and to be hunted. With newfound strength and purpose, Carmen replied mentally, "I'm in the trees. I sense you getting closer." Meanwhile, Jason and the rest of their group raced down the ravine toward the valley where they saw Carmen was hiding. As they reached the valley, they spotted Carmen gracefully moving through the branches. The connection between her and Jason was instant, and it was clear that they were attuned to each other's thoughts and emotions. "Friend!" Jason reached out, his expression a mixture of relief, genuine closeness, and urgency. Without hesitation, Carmen swung down from the tree and landed gracefully in front of them. She looked into Jason's eyes, and the connection between them intensified. They had a short, private moment together. No one needed to speak, to know that danger was imminent, and they had to act fast. "Let's go." "Back up the ravine," Agent Jacob ordered, and the group wasted no time. They turned and sprinted, their feet pounding the ground as they ascended the steep incline. Carmen kept pace with Jason, her senses sharpened by the telepathic connection. It was as if she could feel the danger approaching, a cold presence creeping up behind them. As they neared the top of the ravine, the humming noise grew louder, and Carmen's instincts warned her that their pursuers were almost upon them. But she wasn't alone anymore. She had Jason and the group by her side, and together they formed an incredible force. In a show of unity, they reached the top of the ravine and burst out onto the open land. They didn't stop running, driven by their determination to survive. In that moment, Carmen knew that her life had more meaning. She also knew that she was no longer alone. She had found her place among a similar kindred spirit. 30. Jason's rage. The ravine echoed with the sound of hurried footsteps and heavy breathing as Carmen, Jason, and the group pressed on. Their telepathic connection allowed them to share their emotions, thoughts, without uttering a single word. As they climbed under the dire circumstances, Carmen still couldn't help but feel gratitude for the new team of friends who were helping. Jacob was focused on watching the kids and making sure they were doing all right. He stopped and looked at Jason. "Jason, we have to do something," Jacob yelled out, glancing back at the kids who were panting and struggling to keep up. "That guy is gaining on us, and the kids can't go on like this." "I'm going to stop and face him," Jason replied firmly through a quick telepathic link. "I can't let anything happen to any of these children. They are part of our family. Do you remember what happened to you, Jacob? In the woods?" He nodded. With fierce energy, Jason turned to the kids and conveyed his plan straight to their consciousness like a bullet with speed and force. They knew exactly what he was saying. "Keep going, everyone. I'll stay back and handle Agent Bowers. Trust me, run, Run, I'll catch up." The children looked at him with wide eyes, worried for their friend and father figure. Connor, feeling a surge of emotion, rushed back to Jason, enveloping him in a telepathic hug. "Please be careful, Dad," he pleaded, tears welling up in his eyes. Jason embraced Connor through their telepathic link, a lump forming in his throat. "I promise, I'll be fine." With heavy hearts, Carmen, Jacob, and the children continued their ascent, trusting that Jason would do his best to protect them. Jason watched them go, his mind focused on the approaching Agent Bowers. As Agent Bowers reached the bottom of the ravine, he parked his quad ATV, determination only intensifying when he saw two mysterious creatures, a male adult and 4 children. The sight of 7 individuals baffled him, but he was relentless in his pursuit. The climb was steep and treacherous, but Bowers was in peak physical condition, gaining ground with each step. Agent Bowers cautiously made his way through the rugged landscape, his senses alert to any potential threats. His mission was to locate and dispose of a dangerous alien lizard creature rumored to possess extraordinary telepathic mind powers. The agency had sent him alone, convinced that his skills were sufficient to handle the task. Deep in the wild, he finally spotted something. Jason A. was standing tall on a rocky outcrop. Bowers slowly walks up the rocks and closer till he is close enough for a solid shot. As Bowers' hand instinctively moved towards his holstered gun, they matched eyes. As their eyes met, time seemed to slow. The glowing blue eyes of Jason locked onto Bowers, and an electric charge seemed to surge through the air. Before Bowers could react, he felt a jolt like never before, a connection to the creature's mind that he couldn't comprehend. Bowers' body froze, his hand suspended in midair, unable to reach his weapon. Jason's eyes glowed even brighter, and his entire form seemed to emit a radiant aura. It was as if he was channeling a potent energy that coursed through the universe itself. A sensation of disorientation washed over Bowers, and his mind was flooded with an overwhelming barrage of emotions and images. It was like being caught in a torrential storm of thoughts, each one foreign and incomprehensible. He gasped, trying to regain control, but the force of Jason's signals shook his unprepared mind. He was completely vulnerable, like a radio with its signals scrambled. Jason had tapped into Bowers' mind with an unyielding purpose, and for a moment, it seemed like he had even shut down the agent's brain entirely. The rush of sensations was too much for Bowers' virgin mind to bear. Through the mental chaos, he felt Jason's rage. It was raw and unbridled, filled with the torment of a being misunderstood and hunted. The intensity of Jason's emotions overwhelmed Bowers, and more strange and cryptic images filled his consciousness. He couldn't discern reality from illusion. The line between himself and Jason blurred. It was like drowning in a waterfall of confusion, desperately grasping for a lifeline that wasn't there. He felt the weight of Jason's pain and the burden of his powers. Just when Bowers thought he could endure no more, the connection ceased abruptly. He dropped to his knees, gasping for breath, trying to regain his sense of self. Jason watched him breathing heavily on collapsed knees. As Jason watched him, he saw Bowers slowly start to stand up again with all the strength and resolve he had. He got back up and looked at Jason again. Bowers' eyes flashed with determination, and his hand once again started reaching for his gun. The desire to apprehend Jason, to bring him to justice, pushed him forward. He thought he had regained control, but he had underestimated the depth of Jason's powers. With a speed as fast as lightning, Jason sent another wave of telepathic fury crashing into Bauer's mind. The agent's screams echoed through the rocky terrain as he clutched his head, unable to bear the onslaught of emotions and chaos. The agent started screaming, holding his hands to his head. He just kept screaming and spinning around, shuffling his feet in small circles with his eyes closed and hands to his head. He was going insane. His mind felt like a battlefield. As the battle raged within him, Bowers lost control of his surroundings, stumbling around. He could no longer distinguish between reality and the nightmarish visions that engulfed him. In the midst of the internal turmoil, Bowers unknowingly stepped too close to the edge of the rocks and slipped off. He plummeted downwards, landing straight on his head with a solid thud. The impact crushed his skull, extinguishing the life from his body. The telepathic connection that bound them was severed instantly, like a TV unplugged from the wall. Jason was left standing there, haunted by the realization of what his abilities were capable of. He had unwittingly taken a life, lost control of his powers in a moment of desperation. Jason watched in horror as the agent's life came to a tragic end. He never intended for this outcome, never wanted to unleash such devastating power. He had only sought to protect the kids and himself, to defend against those who hunted him. Fear and guilt overwhelmed him as he stared at the lifeless body of Agent Bowers. He had to protect himself and others, but at what cost? As the echoes of the tragic event faded, Jason started on his way to find his family and friends. 31. The story told. Jason found his friends and Connor quickly. They knew they had to make a swift and covert escape out of South America. They navigated the treacherous terrains with utmost care, employing their wit and resourcefulness to avoid any prying eyes. With Agent David's expertise and strategic thinking, they managed to slip away unnoticed, leaving no trace of their presence behind. Once they returned to their homeland, they sought refuge in Connor's original house. The place held sentimental value for them all, except Carmen, but served as a temporary hideout until they could secure a safer location in Michigan's vast and secluded forests. Jacob Davids spent time scouting large, vacant wooded areas for sale in rural Michigan. As the days passed, the kids, Cheyenne, Clark, and Caleb, returned to their families. They knew they had left behind something extraordinary, a secret that bound them together forever. The cover story they had concocted with Jacob served its purpose, deceiving the government and the world at large. They said the creature was so fast, strong, and scary, it kept them hostage. It didn't hurt them, though. It just kept them till the creature was taken by a UFO. The idea of otherworldly alien abductors captured the public's imagination, and the true nature of the creatures remained shrouded in secrecy. Agent Jacob used all his connections and skills to ensure that their new hideout remained undiscovered. He manipulated data, misled government agencies, and played the role of a master puppeteer, skillfully diverting attention away from the creatures and their young protectors. The Michigan land they settled on was remote and secluded, far away from the prying eyes of civilization. Surrounded by the lush greenery of the woods, they finally found a place where they could thrive without fear of intrusion. Life in their newfound haven was peaceful and serene. The creatures, Jason and Carmen, reveled in their newfound freedom and embraced the wonders of the natural world. Their unique abilities harmonized with the tranquil environment, enhancing their connection with the earth and its creatures. Carmen and Jason continued to strengthen their unique bond, which seemed to grow even stronger in the serenity of the Michigan woods. They were the only two species of their kind in the whole universe. They were the product of the Alzath experimenting ions ago with ancient dinosaurs. Would there be more creatures evolving? Would they be able to connect with more creatures like themselves as time passed? They spent their days pondering thoughts like that and exploring the vast wilderness, discovering its secrets and forming an unbreakable bond. Agent Jacob, now a guardian of the truth, skillfully navigated the complex web of deception and double-agent work. He managed to protect the reptile creatures while keeping the government satisfied with various tasks and missions. The delicate balance he maintained allowed their haven to remain hidden, and he became their protector and guardian in the shadows. As time passed, the stories of their adventures spread, whispered from person to person, leaving an indelible mark on the hearts of those who heard the tales. The story became an inspiration, a reminder that unity and understanding could bridge the gaps between species. And so, the creatures and their protectors thrived in the Michigan woods, secure in their sanctuary. Together, they found solace and happiness in their newfound family, bonded by the extraordinary journey that brought them together. Until Carmen felt a new energy from far away, penetrating her consciousness. 32. Agent Jacob Davids, now a seasoned double agent, had become a master of deception, skillfully juggling his allegiance to the secret government organization and his duty to protect the creatures. He had managed to maintain this delicate balance for so long that he had begun to believe he was in control of his fate. One fateful night, as no moon hung in the dark sky, Jacob received an unexpected call on a secure line known only to a select few within the secret government. The voice on the other end was shrouded in an eerie echo, and their words sent shivers down Jacob's spine. "You've done well, Agent Davids," the mysterious voice said, its tone both congratulatory and unsettling. "But your little charade can't hide the truth forever. We know about the creatures, and we know about your tricks. You have two choices," the voice continued, sending a silent chill through the phone line. "One, you can reveal the true nature of the creatures and their location to us, and will ensure your protection and continued existence. Or two, you can defy us and face the consequences." Before he could respond, the voice spoke again, its words sending a shockwave through Jacob's very being. "And remember, Agent Davids, even we are not the ultimate authority. There are powers beyond even our reach. There is a secret government that the secret government doesn't even know about. Choose wisely," and hung up. The end.